Disclaimer: the information and education material contained herein is meant to promote the general understanding and dialogue of GAN's processing. Such information is not meant or intended to serve as a substitute for a healthcare professional's clinical training, experience, or judgment. For patients and individuals, such information is not to be a substitute for professional medical, therapeutic, or healthcare advice or counseling. For medical issues or concerns, including decisions about medications and other treatments, readers, viewers, listeners should always consult their physician or, in serious cases, seek immediate assistance from emergency personnel. Prescription information, procedures, and use of medical devices information should be undertaken only by properly trained and certified medical personnel. We specifically disclaim any warranties, express or implied, including implied warranties of merchantability or fitness for a particular purpose. Such information is provided, as is, and is believed to be accurate at the time of its publishing, but it is the viewer's job to evaluate the accuracy of any information found in this presentation. Every case presented is of their own experience, applied by themselves for themselves, and it applies to their case only. Every person experiencing health problems should seek professional medical advice and consult their course of treatment with a doctor. The processes of plasma balancing described herein are a natural process which supports the body but does not replace medical advice or therapies one is already subject to.
In a world where value is measured from the outside, we have forgotten the profound wealth that lives within. For too long, the pressure of survival has created a distance between us, leaving the most vulnerable to struggle in silence. But wealth is not found in scarcity or control. True value begins with the human spirit and the knowledge we share. Imagine a moment where every new life is recognized, not as a burden, but as the initial capital of our future peace. At the first breath, a child receives recognition. An equal foundation is set for food, medicine, education, and dignity. No one is left behind. From every corner of the earth, the same recognition is granted. Equality is no longer a dream, it is the protocol. Behind this vision lies a secure, decentralized infrastructure, a blockchain built for service, not speculation. This network is the pulse of a new humanity, low energy, transparent, and grounded in collective responsibility. When basic needs are met, the mind becomes free, education replaces survival, and knowledge creates the path to peace. Through participation and service, we express our true value. We are no longer competitors, we are contributors. Our technology now serves life. The scars of the old world are healed by the wisdom of the new. We are one people, on one planet, moving toward one destiny. The shadows of the past have finally given way to the light. When we stop fighting ourselves, we begin to search the universe. Peace is the foundation. The stars are our destination. Our journey into the deep mysteries of existence has only just begun. We turn toward the stars with open hearts. Value begins with the human, grows through knowledge, and evolves toward an eternal peace.
And welcome everyone to the Keshe American Knowledge Team for July 12th, 2026. This is our regular program, which is sharing the knowledge in the process of creation, which the foundation is opening up more and more to sort of equal some of these masters in the past who have achieved certain things that we thought were beyond our capabilities. But now it's all being opened up step by step, slowly. And of course, next week will be a phenomenal Knowledge Seekers Workshop. So we're going to play that today, as well as review the World Peace Treaty. As we just heard in that video, peace is the foundation for everything, apparently, especially intermingling with the universal community. So we'll share many things, continue to create the Dome of Peace. We'll cover the teaching again, something about the coin, but it's such a huge gift, it's hard to know where to start. And of course, we'll have a summary of that workshop before we begin it, and that was provided by Ed through the AI. So all beautiful works, and again, we're privileged and humbled to be here to provide these gifts to humanity. And of course, most of humanity don't even know the gifts are about to arrive, still trying to struggle in the matter state to meet the daily needs. But as we understand, if the physical needs are met, the mind becomes free. And this is the gift to humanity. And then, of course, our travel across the universe in the dimension of energy. So it's just amazing. We have as Mr. Keshe said, one of the in 305 Knowledge Seekers Workshop, I recall, where he said man was the most illegal nuclear reactor walking around on this planet. But it's not a deadly gamma radiation, so to speak. It's a pleasurable plasmatic radiation. We're just using this or learning how to use it to meet our own needs as well as needs of the others, and to again understand this whole process of the creator and the process of creation. And apparently there's a bit more to it, but it's being opened up step by step. And of course, next week we may receive one of the keys of immortality, let's say, where you can play off that dimension of matter state against the dimension of energy, or operate in both simultaneously. So it's just an amazing new world. They called it Brave New World. There was a book, something like that, but this is again, the knowledge that's been hidden from man for millennium. I guess it's been here before, and some of it is still here, aspects of it, but now the entire knowledge is being opened up in our connection with the universe and so on. It's just a phenomenal process, and I think we, or some of us, may replicate this process as we travel and export this knowledge across the universe. Apparently, the universal community needs this knowledge, and of course we need the support and opening up of the knowledge that the universal community sort of understands and is willing to share. But we have to become peaceful, as this is the foundation of all the work in the universe, and apparently the work within the Keshe Foundation. So I thought I'd go to the World Peace Treaty first and just reconfirm our ethos. But if anyone would like to add anything before we do that, feel free. As I said, we have a large black hole to fill in a way, as Alex is not here today, but we have more than enough souls and universes gathered here to do the job. We'll work with what we have. If not, let me bring up the World Peace Treaty. Again, something Mr. Keshe went to the world governments years and years ago, probably before the year 2000, and said, advance technology in exchange for peace. I can teach the people on this planet how to feed themselves and generate their own power very inexpensively. And of course, that was rebuffed, and now a quarter century later, it's coming back in full force, even to the shocking amazement of some of the world governments. Apparently, Mr. Keshe has pulled a card, or some sort of card, not the kind of card Trump has pulled, but again, moving forward at a very rapid pace. So this is the World Peace Treaty, and again, it's an agreement or reactor you create. Let me just mute something here. And again, it's for you to open up this knowledge, and then, of course, as you create a peaceful universe, you can share this with the others. But this is the agreement or the treaty, and as we can see, we need it quite a bit right now. But of course, this has been the process on this planet for thousands of years. And we've been crying out to God or the universal community to change this structure. And of course, they had to wait until certain things were in place. Timing is very critical. But this is the basis or the understanding of getting to the next step of becoming peaceful, that we move away from killing and destruction into collaboration and observance, let's say, and more in that field. Of course, we're still here to enjoy the physical matter state. It's certainly not going to disappear. But as he said, we can move that 80% we're absorbing much closer to 100% and sort of achieve, in a way, the way the Creator exists, not destroying any of its creation to survive or to exist in the universe. And we all have that capability. So this is the World Peace Treaty. If you're proud of peace and freedom and you'd like to read the World Peace Treaty, proudly open your microphone. I will read it. And again, it's between an agreement in a way, or a treaty between you and your central energies, sort of combining the two, or moving the electron a little bit closer perhaps to the proton and generating something phenomenal. It's a highly complex structure, but yet quite simple. So the World Peace Treaty, we, as citizens of the Earth from this moment on, accept to lay down all tools of aggression and war. We shall never think about getting involved or incite war, or develop or use any tools of war on this planet or in space. And to this we all agree and swear with our, you can delete as appropriate, our nation, our territory, our council, our religion, our city, our town, our body, and our souls. Simply put your name and your signature, again, on behalf of the nation, the territory, the council, the religion, the city, the town, or as an individual. Have it witnessed, and after signing this treaty, I've never signed a treaty, this was the first treaty I think I've ever signed, be proud to display this certificate wherever you consider being important to you, that everyone can see and know your ethos to fellow men and the mankind and other created beauties of the Creator. And as we know, and my understanding has changed in the Keshe Foundation, I thought the Creator only made man in the image of himself, but now we understand the whole creation is made in the image of the Creator. So it is sacrosanct once it's generated into the love of the creation, or even when it doesn't have a physicality, we call the love of creation mitra, or the dimension of physicality. So this is our World Peace Treaty. You can find it on the search engines if you want further collaboration as a company, as an artisan, or anything else. Apparently, this is one of the prerequisites that you need to pledge or want to move in the direction of peace. Even though we're not there, and of course I want to go to China, I'm not in China, but if I make that desire and that intentions, I start with the first step of moving in that direction. And again, it's finding peace within yourself, within your universe first, creating a peaceful universe, and then we'll share it with the others later. Because I think it's rather difficult in a way to, if you're not peaceful, to sort of reflect peace to the others. But as Mr. Keshe said, most of us are rather peaceful, although we do need to move away from destruction of other creatures, which we have considered our right, and even the holy books have confirmed that. So we're learning, again, a new science, a new ethos, and a new language. This is part of the new ethos and the new language. And of course, the new science is meeting the soul of the man, which is part of the whole process of creation. So much deeper than we thought, but again, between you and your central energies, or the center, which we commonly call the soul of the man. And of course, as we know, Da Vinci was looking for that. He was opening up little cadavers and things, trying to find where is that central energy? Where is the battery that runs this thing? And of course, it was in the dimension of energy, so it was rather difficult to find it in the matter state. But as Mr. Keshe said, Da Vinci more or less did this. But at another time, he said, we're making little Da Vincis out of all of you. Even Mr. Keshe himself was compared to Da Vinci, but I think he went farther, much, much farther than Da Vinci as he appeared on the scene. And he got into the teachings on the soul immediately. This was your central energy or central control system. And as he said, do we need the name, the face, or even the place? As if we learn how to absorb certain energies, we can be in any position and any manifestation. So again, it's beyond the imagination of the man, but it's been hidden. And this is some of the books that are being opened up by the Keshe Foundation. And that's why your support is crucial in a way in continuing to open up and allowing the Keshe Foundation to stay free to develop for humanity as more and more gifts are coming down the pike. I don't know why I've never thought of things like the belly button or the breathing or the lymph or the pupil of the eyes. And I think there's much, much more to teach. As he said, I can teach you for weeks or maybe even months about just breathing. So you can imagine how deep and how profound this knowledge is. And we've been walking around with it. As he said, I put it right in front of your noses and we haven't seen it. But now we are starting to see more and more of the beauty of what the Creator has designed and how it's come together and how we're going to share it, use it, and expand it. Any comments from anyone? There was so much, again, you wonder where this wave comes from. And he was talking about the heart and the beating of the heart, which the soul hears. It reflects off the cranium and so on. I think it's best if Mr. Keshe brings that. But next week will be another phenomenal teaching. I don't know exactly what it is. Of course, there's a Swiss conference coming up. There's many, many things going on in the background as we're only privy to a small sort of window looking in to the work of the Keshe Foundation. And this is just going to continue, but especially the release of the coins, I think, will come in the next period of time. Again, exactly, it'll be out for test with a number of individuals and then see how that works and then more and more expansion. So there'll be a massive release of coins, and it's all connected in with the game of peace and enlightenment. As he said, this would provide you access, and Gail has worked quite strongly in the recent period on getting her game sort of lined up. We call it the game of peace and enlightenment. Mr. Keshe delivered this near Christmas time as the biggest gift he could give to humanity. I'll bring up my game of peace and enlightenment. Maybe we can just have a sort of a bit of a discussion or something. Gail, you would like to share about this game of peace and enlightenment? It obviously has many more profound implications than we're fully aware of at this point in time, but anything anyone would like to share. And I don't want to hear how it doesn't work and how someone else grabbed my resource and they got there before I did. And, I'm not happy with this game. Give us 12 to 24 months to perfect it, but it's getting more and more perfected day by day. Gail, would you like to?
I do have one little tidbit. If you look at the different tokens that are available on the board, you see things like, I think this, yeah, you see the kind of like a page, and it's a golden page, a golden chance. There are bottles and treasure chests. So if you note for you personally, you will see a very kind of a dusty circle around them, not the sharp plain circle. And it will be kind of pulsing a bit. when you see that, that's for you, and you will have 2 hours to capture it, and it will be personally for you. If you see the other ones, you're kind of in a competition as to whether you can capture it. Most of the time, when it doesn't have the soft, fuzzy little circle around, I usually lose it because maybe someone else had that soft, fuzzy circle first. And if there are people who don't have keys, you can, yeah, you would go to settings where you log off and log on each day. And you would see there are two keys, one for your KC, like cash coins, and one for your CC, which is your cash coin. Okay, so we didn't, apparently in March, we didn't quite do the right thing with our backup and the key that goes with the cash coin. So we don't have to worry about the cash coin at this point because we're not working with it at the moment. And if we are planning on trying to help each other to look after our cash coin wallet address and knowing how to do the backup. So we're still discussing when is a good time, and then once some people learn, then we can help each other.
Beautiful.
That's it.
I think Gail is more up on it as she's spent some time with the developer in a way of the game, or part of the team of the development of the game. But this is the Keshe Foundation store, which we'll put in the chat. This is the One Nation Network. When you hear Mr. Keshe refer to this dome or this network, it's a One Nation Network. The game of peace and enlightenment. This is a computer type of system, which you'd at this point plug into the wall. The game of peace and enlightenment is embedded within this ONN and many, many other things, I think. You can see so you can order these. They need 10,000 over the next period of time. And then that may go to 100,000. He thought that the 10,000 would support about 1 billion people. So there'll be other iterations or developments with this network as time goes on. There's a secure wallet that you can also get a hold of, apparently. But again, the game is worked on. Give us 12 to 24 months to perfect it. We know it's not perfect. Other things have to be corrected on our end and have to be corrected on the developer side, let's say, as this is sort of a work in progress. But this was the biggest gift Mr. Keshe could give to humanity. So hopefully we've all been sort of following it and paying attention, because this will make the harshness of living on this beautiful planet much less harsh, as these coins seem to have built into them quite a powerful way of providing access, let's say, to certain rooms or certain feeding abilities or certain traveling or perhaps even certain energy features, that once the cosmic ray antennas are added to the system, it will become quite different in a way. As right now, this is just a sort of a mechanical structure, but there may be other things embedded with it. Mr. Keshe doesn't always, let's say, come clean the first time around of what he's actually doing or what he has up his sleeve. Any comments? So if you want to participate in gifting humanity the biggest gift that this planet has ever seen, please feel free to participate. Or even if you are a little bit squeamish of getting directly involved with the Keshe Foundation, you could send a donation to the foundation and allow that gift of the ONN to be put into a country or into a university, or perhaps yours would go on the highest mountain or the lowest trench in the ocean on this planet, as they will be embedded both on the top and on the bottom. And of course, as he said, we need millions of dollars of support. And that, of course, will come. as we see, but you can be part of it as you choose. So let's go back to this. We can always chat on Telegram. I just backed up the game. I want to know how to do the wallet. Thanks you, from Randy. So Gail, perhaps you've been, in a way, the knowledge has been shared with you. You've shared it earlier, and perhaps you'll continue to share it. I was hoping there would be some sort of memo put out, as the game does have a sort of let's just go back to the game if we can. And it does have some descriptions or overviews, but they're very, it has a manual here. And this, I think, is about the same as it was when it first came out. Maybe there's more, but this just gives you a general and rather thin overview of the game. But again, it's a work in process, and you can be privileged to play the game and help it to develop. You want to help the Keshe Foundation? Just play the game, and that they can identify certain things. And apparently, Mosvek, you said certain things have been corrected, or you've noticed some improvement in it. But anyway, this is the game of peace and enlightenment, instrumental part connected to the coins, the Mark Ray Corporation, the cosmic ray balls, and so on and so forth. And many other things. As you see, there's even a sort of a marketplace in this grouping as well. Let me see if I can just do that. And this is where people will be able to trade in certain things. Again, maybe I need to reset here. Not every button works as it's supposed to, and some things don't always work right, but we're working with what we have, and the privilege of helping to develop this structure, which is an integral part of delivering or accessing your coins and the technology. Any comments? This is not quite moving at this point, even though I hit the reset button. No problem. As I said, it's a game in process, quite a bit to learn. There's different things like consciousness, energy, enlightenment. All these things are part, I feel, of understanding some of your capabilities and moving to different levels, perhaps in the universe. I'm not exactly sure, but this seems to be the part of creation, from the small up to the big. So you'll go into that dimension of energy and somehow, if you like, remanifest yourself. But it's just so beautiful what's going on. So this is about feeding, energy, travel, and of course, wellness. And I think that wellness could be perhaps even related to the heartbeat, because as he said, that soul is a control center. If it's hearing a certain wave from the heart, it does what it's in a way commanded to do. The genie follows that. It doesn't create any energy on its own, apparently, but it takes the energy created by the heart or the wave, the frequency. Again, it's quite detailed, and I'm not actually sure of the whole process, but it does work, and we can work it if we know more about it. And that's what's being revealed here. So again, part of a much larger structure. So we're fortunate we can play this game of peace. And as he said, this ethos of the foundation, this thinking, speaking, and acting good, becomes instilled in you. This is the gift of the three wise men. Again, at least I did, I fell for the matter state gifts. But now we understand a little bit more that these were not matter state so much in a way, but this was the thinking, speaking, and acting. Even Mr. Keshe said he carried this ethos of the three wise men even before the foundation. And then, of course, as you apply this, you'll become proud of the work you do. And you'll become proud of the person you are. And you'll become prouder of the difference, if there's such a word as prouder. You'll become happier with the difference you're making, as we understand our work is correct and forever. But we're still in the process of perfecting all of this. Any comments about the game? Thank you, Gail. Oops. Every time we close something, something else seems to close. Let's see if it'll refresh itself here. Yeah. So you're learning quite a bit about the planet, how really small it is, this little speck, and maybe there'll be some, again, movement within the game structure of traveling to different places. I would like to visit Gambia. As someone was saying, they don't even lock up their stores at night, where it's sort of like the Forbidden City. Nobody steals, or very few, if any, steal. So I'd like to see that environment. Of course, there's so many things going on. We can't start to explain it all, just touch on it. You have the research centers, the space city, the game, the coins, the units. It's all being developed. Now we have the constitution of the Keshe coin, which has already been written. I think we'll replicate that. And of course, on Monday, if you've joined the Keshe Foundation Association, which we did have on the screen, let's just see if we can bring that up again. There is an actual meeting of the association on Monday, the 13th. I think it's at 3 p.m. Central European time. And I'm not finding the announcement, but perhaps it's in the tray here. Let me just take a quick look. We have some offers we'll put into the chat. I don't see it quite here at this point. Okay, but we'll find that and put it into the chats. If you're a member of the association, keshefoundation.at, which is in the chat. This allows you to become a member of an association, which grants you rights and privileges of getting coins and exchanging them and so on. But I think you're going to have to sign the first document and forward that to the Keshe Foundation, as this is a prerequisite to collaboration, that you want to move forward in a peaceful condition, even if you're not there yet. And I don't think anyone is fully there yet. No one's an angel that I'm aware of, if angels exist. So if there's no further comment on this, but this seems to be the centerpiece of where much of the action of the Keshe Foundation will, not exclusively, but certainly much of the interaction between knowledge seekers, between the foundation, with the apps and so on, will be accessed through the game. Even the transmutation sessions that are coming up again. This is a monthly session where you help the Keshe Foundation develop, is coming into fruition again, and the game will be even used in those sessions in some shape or form. So it's all being gifted to humanity. All we have to do is pick up on it and spread the word. The technology is already there. And again, we show you what we do, but you may not be able to replicate some of this technology, or maybe even most of it at this point, till the soul is mature. And maybe you don't even need devices if you can replicate this work within your own structure, which is very possible. As we know, we're already feeding ourselves 80% of what we need on a daily basis, which I think next week's program is going to go into that process a bit deeper, let's say, of how we can fill that gap and move away from killing and destruction. This should help open up the universe to us, let's say. And of course, many techniques, as we heard about this humming, and the gurus or the monks that practice this and create the nitrous oxide, which is again a precursor to the perhaps carbon-14, relaxing the vasculature, and again, in combination with a number of things, breathing and pupils and lymph and emotion. If we can put it all together, the genie will perform. You've always wanted a genie in the bottle. You've always had a genie in the bottle, but we were never aware of it. And of course, the soul, being such a perfect gentleman, doesn't announce itself in a very loud way to us. But yet it's our closest friend. And we need to become more familiar with this central energy. but one cannot work apparently without the other. So again, a twinity sort of structure we're in. Shall we go to the teaching in the, no, I think what we said we would do would first review Ed's video, which AI has created through Notebook LM and so on, of the overview, which is 12 minutes, and then we'll go back to the teaching. Because this is, as he said, tell all your friends, neighbors, exes, and the rest of the teaching that's coming next week, which will be, again, groundbreaking, huge game changer, knowledge opened up that's never been heard by the ear of the man before. So we thank the Keshe Foundation and, of course, continue to support. Any thoughts or comments before we go to the sort of summary of this workshop, and then we'll go right into the workshop and hear the full delivery. Okay, let's begin. And this should whet your appetite a bit, but just what's revealed in this 10 minutes is just so profound and so overwhelming. Sometimes I feel I don't have a structure to absorb it all, but we do, because this is just things we've never considered before. And as he said, this technology is beyond the imagination of even the science fiction book, and so apparently is our own structure.
Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're jumping straight into some truly mind-bending material from the Keshe Foundation's Knowledge Seekers Workshop 650. We're unpacking what the source material calls the science of creation. And let me tell you, this completely flips the script on human biology. Instead of looking at our bodies as, basic mechanical machines that just run on the food we eat and the oxygen we breathe, this material presents the human being as a highly advanced cosmic energy converter. It's a total paradigm shift. So let's just dive right into how this science of creation actually works.
So I want you to pause for a second. Just feel your pulse. What do you think is the true purpose of your heartbeat? I mean, traditionally, we're all taught that it's just this biological metronome, right? Just a pump moving blood through our veins. But what if it actually serves a vastly more profound universal purpose? According to the source, if we only look at the physical pumping of blood, we're completely missing the fundamental reason we are alive.
To really grasp this, we have to contrast two very different views. In traditional science, you've got the brain acting as the center of intelligence, and the heart is, well, just a mechanical pump. But the science of creation outlines an entirely different ecosystem. In this new paradigm, the brain is actually an energy converter, and the heart is what the text calls a soul synchronizer. The argument here is that the physical side of our senses is literally just the surface level. It's the hidden, energetic mechanics working behind the scenes that truly sustain us. And that brings us to this fascinating concept the text calls the pulse of the soul. See, the source explains that while physical energy operates on frequency, plasma energy operates on a pulse. The heartbeat actually creates an internal noise, a highly specific synchronization pulse for the entire construction of the human body. The text claims that without this specific acoustic noise from the heart, a human wouldn't survive for even a few seconds. It's not just about pushing blood around. It's about that acoustic bang, bang, communicating directly with the soul, essentially telling it exactly what energies to release to keep the whole system running. Now, think about how our physical anatomy actually plays into this. The skull isn't just some protective helmet for your brain. According to the text, it functionally acts as an acoustic reflector. It literally bounces the pumping fields of a heart right back onto the soul. And that reflection creates a noise that dictates our physical and emotional responses. It makes so much sense when you think about it. When you get anxious or super excited, your heartbeat changes, right? Well, in this framework, you're actually altering that acoustic feedback loop that manages your body's energy. Building on this whole idea of internal noise, the source highlights something you've probably seen monks or people in deep meditation do. They make this continuous humming sound, a deep Well, the text states this is actually incredibly powerful. When you superimpose that humming noise over your heartbeat, it actively balances your soul's frequency. Biologically speaking, this specific vibration happening in your sinuses creates nitric oxide, which then relaxes and opens up your blood vessels. It's a perfect, tangible example of using internal sound to harmonize the physical body with the energetic soul.
So, if the heart is the synchronizer, what about the brain? Well, the source material makes a really bold claim here, and I'm just going to quote it directly. Your brain is not an information center. Your brain is a generator, converter of the fields, a deeply working, functioning plasma nuclear reactor. The text emphatically rejects the whole idea that your brain is just a place for thinking or storing memories. Instead, it totally redefines the brain as this immensely powerful transformer that is literally designed to capture universal fields and convert them into usable physical energy.
Which brings us to this absolutely staggering figure presented in the explainer: 80 to 100%. The text claims that human beings actually absorb 80% of their required daily energy directly from cosmic rays and the surrounding environment. Yeah, not from the food we eat. And it goes even further, suggesting that with the right understanding and mastery of this internal science, you can push that number all the way up to 100%.
Okay, so you're probably wondering, how does all this cosmic energy actually get inside us? The source outlines specific intake valves on the human body, places like our fingertips, our backs, and our legs. And these aren't just random spots. They are highly specific energetic gateways. When the energies from these different points flow into the body and mix together, they create the exact energetic cocktail that your liver, your heart cells, and everything else in your physical structure needs to keep going.
And this ties perfectly into what we were just talking about with the brain. The source argues that the very shape of the human brain, the way it sits forward in the skull and physically connects to the eyes right underneath, is designed specifically for its role as a decoding machine. It literally translates the raw, invisible fields of the universe into physical sustenance. It's constantly processing environmental energy, basically decoding the cosmos itself into the physical energy you need to survive. So the million-dollar question is, who is running this entire operation? The source defines the human soul as the control room. In this framework, the soul isn't just some passive, abstract spiritual concept. It is the active, overriding commander of your biology. It decides exactly how much cosmic energy to absorb from the environment, and it's making these decisions dynamically, second by second, based on your current emotions, your breathing patterns, and of course, that acoustic pulse of your heartbeat.
So how does all of this build into an actionable process? Well, the text outlines what we can call the 3 pillars of transmutation. If you want to consciously convert universal energy, you have to synchronize 3 specific elements. First, your sight connection. Second, your breathing sequence. And third, your internal noise, your heartbeat. The source claims that mastering the alignment of these 3 pillars actually allows a human being to completely control plasma energy fields and consciously transmute environmental energy into physical form. However, there is a catch. The text hints at a mysterious 4th factor that's needed to complete the process. Even after you've totally synchronized your sight, your breath, and your heartbeat, there is still a very specific cosmic energy required from the universe to achieve complete, absorbed transmutation. It's framed as the final missing key to unlocking our full potential as cosmic energy converters. To ground this massive cosmic theory back into, actual human anatomy,
The source points specifically to the thyroid gland. In this whole framework, the thyroid isn't just there to regulate hormones. It actually acts as a crucial cosmic filter. It literally sits right between the physical body and the raw energy of the universe. So as your lungs expand and your heart beats, they interact with the thyroid gland, filtering the universe's energy right before it reaches the soul. The implications of mastering this 100% energy transmutation are just awe-inspiring. According to these teachings, if you can absorb all your energy directly from the universe, you'd literally have no need to ever consume physical food again. This would mean a complete end to destroying other life, whether that's animals or plants, just for our survival. On top of that, the text claims this level of mastery unlocks extreme physical regeneration. We're talking about being able to regrow lost fingers, limbs, or even reconstruct damaged parts of the brain. It's wild. But contrast that boundless cosmic potential with our current everyday biology. The source presents a really fascinating perspective on organs like the tongue. Since we are theoretically designed to be universal energy converters, the text argues that we don't actually need a mouth to survive. The tongue and the whole sense of taste are seen as mere physical anchors. They were built into us simply to attach our human experience heavily to the dimension of physical matter, basically to ground us in the sensory experience of this specific planet.
And this realization unlocks the ultimate capability outlined in the source, surviving the deepest parts of the universe. By learning how to transfer universal magnetic fields directly into the soul for sustenance, humanity simply wouldn't need a physical environment to survive. The text boldly claims that armed with this knowledge, a human being could exist in deep space, or even in the hottest, most radioactive parts of the cosmos, for thousands of years, entirely free from any need for earthly food or oxygen. So the ultimate goal of learning this science of creation is huge. The text states that this fundamental science is the literal key to freeing humanity from earthly governance. It's all about elevating mankind so we can finally step out of what the source calls the village of Earth. We are meant to evolve from earthbound creatures totally dependent on agriculture into entirely self-sustaining citizens of the cosmos. Which leaves us with a pretty massive thought to close out this explainer. If this source material is right, if your body is actually a highly advanced cosmic energy converter, fully capable of surviving the deepest, most extreme parts of the universe purely through the pulse of your heart and the control of your soul, what is truly tying you to the physical world? It's a question that completely reshapes how we view our own biology and, frankly, our ultimate place in the cosmos. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible deep dive.
Okay, any comments on control systems or this breathing or the fingertips, the back, the legs? How come I didn't think of anything like this in the past? I still don't understand it all. But he did give a breathing rhythm that would create the energy of a steak, apparently. And maybe there's more details to it. I'm going to review that again, but apparently it's this rhythm of breathing. But the heart has to be, in a way, beating, I guess, correctly. Otherwise, the soul picks up the wrong energy. So I was thinking maybe the balancing out of the heart, whatever conditions is needed to sort of help this whole process. Because if the soul is receiving sort of sour notes, it can't do, or it follows those sour notes and sort of creates that. Any comments on the heart or the soul of physicality? Actually, he said this is where it's gathered, actually, in a way, waving the soul of the man as a twinity system.
It really brings up a different way of thinking of a heart attack and people that have plugged arteries and plugged valves, that it's maybe not a physical thing, it's a spiritual thing first that manifests into the physical.
As he said, Randy, those people that hum apparently don't have certain problems with the heart or the blood balance, whatever blood sugar, whatever constituents in the blood. So that humming is quite powerful. And we opened it up a few weeks ago in the reactor group and a little bit perhaps last week. But I've been practicing a little bit of humming. Again, it creates some sort of balance that we just thought it was somebody was happy and they're humming. Much more profound ways to trigger this system. This is what we're learning. The system is there. It's just a matter of triggering it. And only you can do that. So you have the laboratory with you at all times. You can sort of play and experiment or do a little bit of an experiment at any time you choose to, because you're walking around with that lab or that universe, let's say, and we're trying to create a peaceful universe that we can join with the bigger family.
So where is this trigger? So this trigger, we can actually, there are different ways of triggering things.
Could it be multiple triggers need to be done simultaneously? Like if I was going to launch a rocket or a nuclear bomb or something like that, certainly there's many fail-safe systems that I can't just move one switch and the rocket goes. There's a lot of other organs or things that have to agree for this. All the switches have to be in sort of the on position, MOSFET, maybe?
Well, it's a control system, and at some point there is a original command. Let's call it that. A command has to come from some source, and that is the soul, and the rest of it, heart, lung, whatever else there is kind of like they start operating simultaneously in sequence, whatever. It happens after that first thing is triggered. So if we are further down the control chain, let's call it that, you have to manage, you have to keep several balls in the air, so to speak. But if you start from the command position or the soul position, it gets much easier. So the further down the command chain we are, do this, do that, hold the blue ball and the red ball and the green ball should be here, the purple ball should be on the right hand, things like that. So you have to juggle many things, but those things get triggered from the original point, the command, and that exists at the soul level. So the easier it gets, the higher up in the control sequence we go to. So it's our choice where we want to do it. It can be done anywhere, but it's a much more difficult thing to do when you are doing at let's say at a much lower level, such as in the physicality. So
Right.
this is the basic control mechanism that we haven't been told about. This is where the source and this soul links up with the creator and all that, other things that happens as the whole sequence. Where do soul doesn't hold knowledge as such. It brings in on demand, and then everything starts triggering. So
ago, Mosfeq, he said using the breathing was the more slower process. Maybe
that's a physical thing. Of course, that's a slower process.
he said
That's physical thing.
it's more about creating the correct emotion, and then it becomes almost instantaneous. So
Yeah, I mean, the test that I am doing right now it's with stopping food, eating altogether, and I didn't do it with breathing at all. Although the guru was talking about breathing, Mr. Keshe talked to him about breathing, I didn't do any of the breathing thing at all. But I started on more at the intention level. It's much easier. And the biggest difficulty is I had from the people around me putting pressure. Oh, you have to eat, you have to eat. But anyway, so the main thing is that, you know, once I started doing it and I'm successful, and I am successful in doing it. And so then I noticed, well, there is a very slight change in the breathing as I do this kind of energy transfer. So yeah, you can notice it, but you know, did I consciously change the breathing? Not at all. But it happened.
Seems to be more easily acceptable when you're in an environment where there are others who claim to do it or maybe do certain things that in Western society this seems preposterous.
No, it's difficult everywhere. I mean, this is the East. I mean, I'm in the East now. So, you know, do you get pressure from people around you? Of course. I mean, you know, any society, if you, in any situation, if you step away from what's considered normal, you get pressure. And, you know, I mean, I used to talk about Tesla when I was in school back in the, you know, 80s, early 80s, and the you know, people looked at me funny, my friends. So I you know, I used to do weird things, and I didn't even tell my friends at all. So things like that, you know. So how do you know? So you have to kind of only show a part of it, and then slowly unveil the rest of it. And otherwise, it's not possible. Even Mr. Keshe is doing it too. You can't expose give the knowledge directly. You have to, you know, start with, what do you call it, nanocoating and speaking and so forth.
Right, the mother doesn't cut a piece of meat the first time she holds the baby, right? It starts with a very milk and moving up to more puree and more solid and so on. Is that what?
Yeah, that's why mothers mess it up. You know, milk was a good starting point, but after that, things messed up. And it's a very interesting thing, because when I was little and when my sisters were little, none of us were very interested in eating. And, you know, of course, mothers freak out when the kids don't eat. And so we had, you know, this understanding was inherently there, but the society didn't allow it to develop. So, yeah. And so now that, you know, we are back, you know, much older, and, you know, it's kind of funny. It's coming back. Wow.
If we combine all this stuff we've listened in the last couple of teachings with Mr. Keshe, the fields come through the eyes to the soul. Now, that's the sight. Now, at what point does it distribute, or how does it communicate? I understand you have the lungs, which is the breathing, and then you have the sound. So can you explain to me, to a layman, at what point does it distribute what, let's say, my liver needs, what is lacking in my body? Because I know the soul distribute that, but it comes through the eyes first, and then how does the lungs and how does the sound work on that field that comes through the eyes to the soul?
Well, as you understand, I mean, what you call it, the eyes, the ears, and the nose, these, what you call it, holes, act as control points of the control rod of a nuclear reactor. So our reactor is controlled through these holes. So it operates in the physical range to meet the physical needs, the sound, the air flowing to the lungs, and the sight we see in the visual frequency ranges. And then there is the other level where the eyes can receive a much wider spectrum of fields. This is not and similarly, the ears have another level of operational capability, which is used by Keshe Foundation to transmit various control signals to our soul through the headphone. This is what is being used by the Keshe Foundation, and the more advanced version where you put two headphones on the forehead, middle of the forehead, that uses also the eyes. And then there is the nostrils, which also, is in addition to doing the lung, the first say is coming from the soul, because whatever is entering through our nose, whether it's fields, air, whatever, smell, whatever, the soul picks it up first, and then it goes to the rest of the body. Eyes, in a way, the same story. Ear, same story. So the control system is operating both at the physical level to meet the physical needs, and at the soul. These are low energy fields, so it's kind of at the outer layer of the reactors, and which includes thyroid and the other layer, which is the physicality layer with the soul of physicality, which is some kind of, you can think of it, the heart region, and not necessarily exactly at the heart point, but somewhere there. But and then that's the sort of like the boundary of it's kind of like you think of solar plexus and heart, that region. It's the boundary layer of that reactor. And thyroid is the other level of the reactor. So, and these things are controlled through various, nose and sound as well. But so that's the physicality level. And the physicality also sends signals to the soul through the brain. So, I mean, there are several things going on here, but there are two separate, distinct levels of operation. One is the physicality level, and the other one, the superior one, is the soul level operation, and completely at the cosmic energy level. So, anyway, hopefully that makes some sense, given that what I have spoken earlier in the plasma reaction group, some of you have heard it. But anyway, it's a reactor control system, really. But the intriguing part is that when the internal reactor, the soul, issues a command, what happens? And that's the most intriguing part, in my opinion. So we'll see as we experiment, as we play with it, we'll get more things done with it. So anyway, hopefully it may not be, what you call it, completely explicit in terms of what you're asking, but it gives you some hint about how to
it
deal
gives
with
a
it.
hint. It has more, it gives me the hint, like you said, but it has more questions to it. What is the
but the rest of it you have to figure out on your own.
Right.
There is no answer in the sense that you feel it. How do you control your body better? Let's say, no disease, all these things. Food is one example I'm talking about, which I have. Actually, this is an experiment I'm doing, and it's quite successful in my opinion. And so, and I'm testing it in spite of everybody around me saying, don't do it, that kind of thing. And so, and on top of it, I'm a fairly good cook, so people want me to cook, and at the same time, I don't want to eat. It's a strange situation.
But
But
then when you cook, you know that you have the pulse. It's like you have all these fields you are breathing. So in a sense, you are absorbing also and feeding yourself.
I know about it. I know about it because I once did I cooked a meal for 120 people. I did not want to eat after that. And this was like 10 years back. And I knew at that time that it is possible to do it. I mean, I was not conscious of how to do it, but I knew that it is possible, even then, that one can do it. But so it wasn't too hard for me to take those steps because I knew it. I mean, inherently I knew it because I have experienced it. And so
yourself affect with the aroma of what you were preparing. As we know, smells have energy in them.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. Yeah. And it's not just energy is there. I was absorbing it for sure because I wasn't hungry at all. I was actually full. I didn't want to eat the lunch after that. And I didn't actually eat anything that day. So anyway, so it is, and now I know how to do it. So it's not that, nothing big, but thing is that we make a big deal out of it, and that's it. It can be done. And I mean, now I'm doing like 2 days not eating and 1 day eating. Kind of it can be extended more, but I have to do it slowly for other people around me. But what happens is that after I don't do it nothing for 2 days, I go to the third day. I have to be careful because if I don't pay attention to how much I'm eating, I feel less energetic because digesting food takes a lot of effort and you can sense it. And that's actually more work. So I call my 2 days my holy days or holidays. And the day I eat is my work day. So actually it is. I mean, I'm not joking. It's harder work. And I can do my exercise. I mean, I can do physical exercises on my holidays a lot easier. And the days I eat, it's like lethargy, a lot more lethargic and all that, So anyway, it's an interesting thing, but be prepared for the pressure around you from other people if you hang around other people. So it goes with the territory.
Understanding has grown. I thought the food was 100% of the energy you're taking in. I was totally wrong. 80% is by default. It's just the 20% we're short, which makes us kill and eat another entity. And that's because the soup of this environment does not allow this to happen, apparently. But by changing the soup, perhaps we will reach 90, 95, or 100% much, much easier.
Yeah, that's one way of doing it, is changing the soup. But that's the Keshe Foundation is doing this, changing the soup. But you can stick your head out of the soup and do it on your own.
Yes.
So Mr. Keshe was saying, you don't need Keshe Foundation for this stuff.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, when I started, I was connecting with of course, not through the phone, but directly to the what do you call it, our enhancement unit. After 2 days, I said, why am I doing it? I can do it myself. So I stopped doing it. I mean, after 2 days, it didn't take very long for me. And then it was just easy. Really not that difficult. Once you come to terms with that I can do it. It's that from then on, it's not that hard, but just switching that is what is kind of like a bit tricky. Right. But anyway, that's just some things we are fast with, something takes time. Each of us, I mean, they do it their own way, and whatever is comfortable And plus the environmental factors, who you stay with, who you interact with, have its role to play too. So anyway, I hope this helps some people. And it's not that hard. I mean, it's really not that hard. Anybody can do it. Actually, it's easier for, like, if I can go back in time when we were children, my sister, they were also like me, and they wanted to not eat. And it would have been very easy to do it, but the pressure is so much from mom, dad, whoever. Our grandmother used to live with us, and it was even worse. but it wasn't the time for it, but now it is. So there we go. And my mom is not too happy, but she knows.
Very nice.
So it's you have to, this adjustment with, like, the people around you is something at this stage. Yes, it is. It has to be there. But once a large number of people can do it, then you don't need it anymore.
Yeah, I think it'll totally reverse, Mosfek, as it'll be frowned upon in the future time of taking other entities to maintain your own structure. This will be a practice that will be, in a way, looked down upon.
The way, like today, actually, it was my work day, and I cooked, and it was a fancy food I made. But thing is that I had to detach from my practice and engage with the world as I usually do. And so this ability to quickly attach and detach is what I'm learning to do better, and do it without any stress or misgiving or any of these things. So I'm very relaxed in both state. I can attach to the eating pattern and then go back to non-eating pattern and explore that. And tomorrow, when I'm known to eat anything, I will be on a different state. And so it needs a little bit of practice, but I'm not stressed about either of them. So it has become easy, but it took some time to get comfortable with it, especially transitioning from away from food. Was the environmental pressure can be extremely high, and this I can warn anybody, because people do not like people doing something out of the norm, and even Keshe Foundation itself is out of the norm, but people have seen results, so they can't talk too much about it. But but soul level stuff gets rather tricky. But in any case, I've talked enough. But
Beautiful. Explanation. And of course, there's a reference to breatharians in the world. I don't think Mr. Keshe has mentioned it, but he has mentioned people that have been able to do this.
Yeah, exactly. There are people that are doing it now, and it's well known. So, yeah.
Yeah, and the main reason is not to say, oh, you're magic or you can do magic, is to move away from this position of killing and destroying other creations.
And I also tell people about the other aspect about this. We read in the holy books that people used to live for 1,000 years, but they don't mention how they did it. But then I said, now we know, because they used to eat once in 3 days. So, and I can tell, I don't have to eat for 3 days. Then I can eat. And so, and then there has been tests done on how your skin recovers stem cells. Some stem cell research has been done in this area, and how your, what do you call it in the skin? I forget the net. I can't right now. I'm not remembering. I know it. it's the skin wrinkling, the skin wrinkling effect reverses when you fast. This has been tested. So there are a lot of things that happen when you don't eat. So you can actually get younger in your physical looks and abilities as well as you stop eating. So this is something, and especially when I talk to my female friends, they get intrigued by it a bit more than guys.
Yeah, it was a mystery to me when I had heard in the foundation you could feed yourself without eating. I said, there's no way that you could feed yourself without eating, because I didn't understand my own creation and what was happening. But I was trying to figure it out. How could you get the steak in you without eating it? But this is not the idea, is you can play with these energies. And this,
I haven't done a whole lot of tests before with, like, feeling the food without eating, like tasting it. I didn't feel the need for it, but sometimes I can see that feeling comes in. Yeah, I want to taste it. So I'm beginning to test this, and it's possible too. But the feeling, the emotion that you get from eating a steak, like you were saying, and so that kind of things in how you do it. And this is something that's interesting as well. But I'm testing that now, and it's not that difficult really. But and at some point you can detach from it, and you don't need really to have it. But a few of these things will probably remain, even if I can completely not eat at all. But sometimes I want to taste some of the things I can make, which I like a lot. And so it will be there a little bit remnant of these kind of things, but it's okay.
Yeah, and when we went through some of those tests of dining with the creator, my belly was full, even though it haven't probably over a day, and there was no struggle. It was happiness, actually. Even though I opened the refrigerator a number of times, I just closed it. I said, I don't eat that, and I'm not hungry for it. Somehow they had done something in the testing that satisfied us for a period of time. And as Mr. Keshe said, if you feel hungry the next day or not, you can come back and top up again with these.
And one amazing thing that people don't talk about a whole lot, you don't need to go to the bathroom. And that to me is a great benefit. You don't need to go to the bathroom at all for 2 days, even 3 days.
Right.
This is the other part of it. And people who eat a lot, they actually spend a lot more time in the toilet. And this I have noticed even because I'm not a big eater. I've never been a big eater. So it is very noticeable. And so this is another aspect of it, which is very amazing, very interesting to me. And I'm also thinking of how not just stop consuming food, but how to remove waste without going to the bathroom. This is something I haven't tested it yet, but I'm working on this other end. But that would be an interesting thing to do without even going to the bathroom. I know that you can do it with the liquid processing system in our body, the kidney and so forth. There was an Indian guy who was not a guru or anything. He just did it on his own. And he was tested by some doctors in India. And they found that there was a recirculating mechanism in his kidney, which was he didn't drink or eat. And he was reusing his water continuously within himself. They could actually monitor it with the instruments. And they were baffled by it. How is it possible that somebody's body works this way? So anyway, that's another.
And of course, you see that with conditions of pneumonia. Don't the lungs fill up with water in a way, or plasma water? So the body is some fair and they keep vacuuming it out. So the body is able to do some fantastic things.
Yeah, so, so instead of harming us with these fantastic things like filling your lungs with water, you can do other things, fantastic things, but that helps your body instead of hurting it.
Well, just making the point that the body has some capabilities that they drain the lungs and a few hours later they're full of water again. Where did that water come from? Nobody was giving any liquids. It was restricted liquids.
Yeah, so and people don't, I mean, our medical system do not have any explanation for any of these things, but they just deal with it with the hospital charges a lot of money and all that. It's a good business, but anyway.
Okay,
So in any case, I've talked long enough. So
no, that was excellent. Again, your direct experience with this whole process. So let's go back to the professor, and perhaps we'll listen to the teaching, and then we'll do the Dome of Peace. Once the teaching is complete, then Alex will share a teaching he's pre-recorded for us, and then we'll bring the session to a close. But feel free to interact at any time, add your understanding. Mosfek, any more you'd like to communicate? Or anyone else? Seems like we have a long way to go, but maybe that journey will be sort of short-circuited in a way as some of these technologies and other things enhance our own ability to do some of the things we just dreamed about. So let's go back to the teaching of the 650. Thank you, Ed, for a beautiful summary. So now let's go in detail about what Mr. Keshe was talking, and looking forward to next week's teaching as well. Anyone else? Okay, this is what we call opening the books in a way.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 650th Knowledge Seekers Workshop here on Thursday, July 9th, 2026. This is a production of the Keshe Foundation, Spaceship Institute Education Department, and part of the public teachings in English. My name's Rick Crammond, and I'll be host once again, and we are hosting Mr. Mayran Keshe as our main teacher and presenter here, and I believe he's ready to go in today's slightly later than usual workshop, but I'm sure Mr. Keshe is completely ready. So please go ahead, Mr. Keshe.
Thank you very much. Good morning, good day to you. As usual, wherever and whenever you listen to this, there's a knowledge seekers from Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute. As usual, we welcome you back, and hopefully we can learn from each other a little bit more and understand more about our own structure. In the past few weeks, we spoke about the sight. We spoke about the smell and lung. These two work if the main ingredient works. And a lot of us think that when we are deaf, we don't hear, nothing happens. The deafness belongs to the physicality. The deafness does not affect the work of the soul, the central energy system. What this means is that we become deaf, we become older, we hear less and less, but that does not affect the power of the hearing or absorption of the waves, the sounds of the universe with our soul. In the world of science, we talk. In the world of everyday life, we talk, we live. We call it the sense of sight, smell, and hearing. But without hearing, in a dimension of the soul, without the noise, man cannot live. We are deaf in the ear, but our heart makes that whole noise. Our heart is that system which creates the noise which synchronizes the whole construction of the body of the man. If you take the heartbeat, the noise of the heartbeat, away from the body of the man, man will not be able to survive even seconds. One of the reasons man dies, one of the reasons when you go into an accident and you can't breathe and yet your heartbeat going and then the rest of your body comes alive, after so many minutes, half an hour, they pump your chest. It's the noise which brings you back. It's the noise that takes over the structure of the soul of the man to release energy at a certain way that allows the rest of the system to come into operation. In a way, without the noise of the heart, without that pulse, there is no life. In the dimension of physicality, we have frequency. In the dimension of the plasma, we have the pulse. That heartbeat of the pulse of the heart of the man is to keep in touch, to keep the soul to release what I need, that I can live by. This is why when we get older, the heartbeat changes, the pulse of the heart changes, we catch new diseases, new conditions, we have problem in living. Because now the soul releases energies which fits only to certain cells, not to the others. If you check, we know this now, especially with over hundreds of thousands of Japanese passing age of 100, that those who survive, who are living, still living an active life after 100, have a perfect heart or near perfect heart. Because the plasma of the soul cannot live without the pulse. And that pulse is not only created by the soul, but the pulse from the soul of physicality tells the soul what to release as energy for the rest of the body. This is why somebody dies on the street and you see people pumping the heart, and then after half an hour it comes, because that pulse, if you keep it to the right sequence, to the pulse of the soul releases the energy that the physicality starts operating. Not because we get the lung going. No way, no under no circumstances. In a next week session, I'll bring a most fundamental science man has ever known. It will change the course of the knowledge of humanity. And if you know any scientists, if you know any physicists, if you know any doctors, get them to listen to next week's teaching. Next week's teaching is like we used to do special sessions for a week for a medical, is as important as one of those special sessions. Because what I unravel next week will change the course of humanity in the knowledge of science of itself. Where and how we use the cosmic energies, which is as a higher level, to change it, to convert it, to become the energy of physicality. This knowledge has never been known by man. But as I always said, we get 80% of our energies through the cosmic rays, through the environment. And next week, for the first time, I explain how the creation has hidden this from mankind. And now man is mature to understand it. A child on the street will understand it. Then you understand why we absorb different energies from our fingertips. We absorb different energies from our, let's say, back. We absorb different energies from our legs. And when all these energies mix, it becomes what is needed for the liver, what is needed for the cells of the heart, and the rest of it. You can let a man live without the environment, but you cannot let the man live without the soul. You can take the soul of physicality and physicality inside the soul of the man and protect it because it creates environment for it, but you cannot let the man live without it. So what we understand now, especially next week, is one of those most important sessions for maybe for decades we passed, is one of those key points, which if you understand and you understood the teaching of past few weeks, you understand how to transmute. You will understand how your emotion affects your transmutation, affects your decision, affects your... As knowledge seekers, will be given the key to everlasting life if you understand it. Most probably next week teaching, in accordance to all our teaching of the soul and physicality, it will be where the two link up, where I bring an unknown knowledge of man for the first time to humanity. You will look at the physical side of it, but when it brought out, you see how in your brain the energy is transferred to your physicality and how your soul decides what absorbed from the environment. You can put a man in a space, don't feed him for thousands of years, but allow him to transfer energy of the universe in his soul, man will survive. Man will convert itself to another dimension to exist. And this is the secret that you touch it every day. You see it every day in the scientific world. They talk to you every disease you have, but you don't understand why even your diseases come from. All this works with that pulse, what your ear hears. This goes back, why do you, what we call, when you close your eyes, the soul travels through the space of your eyes. But how come you hear conversations? How does the conversation with mom comes as you remember I was talking to mom? The image comes through the eye. The noise comes through the ear voice of hearing. Ask yourself one question. Why does Chinese and English, Arabic, Persian, and hundreds of other languages we have all understand each other? How they understand in every language, and you can translate it from one to another. What is the emotion of love? What is the emotion of hate? What is this cup of water? Why is this sky? Because we, in our ear, in our understanding and emotion, have pigeonholed these things to understand, and we nourished it. But none of this will work if the noise is not created through the heart of the body of the man. A pulse created by the heart is as important as the breath you take for existence of life, for existence of the soul. That's why your breathing and your heartbeat are connected to each other. Without the two, without the pulse, the soul does not exist, cannot communicate with the soul of physicality. That bang, bang you hear when you hear to the, what you call the system from the doctor, or when you put your head against the heart of your lover and you hear, they listen to that bang, bang, listen to heart of a child, and then to your partner, and then to an old man, and see what is the difference. Then you understand how important that pulse, that noise, that frequency which is creates, become the source of the creation of existence of the man. You heard many times why a lot of what we call these funny people who live in temples, they go, and they make a noise, continuous noise. And they always stay healthy. They're very good looking, even they're 80, 90, 100. Because the noise which they make is the most fundamental noise in the life of the man. If you understand why. Not many of these people die of heart attack. Not many of these people die of the blood clot and the rest of it. Because they have found the secret, but they don't talk about it. Because when you tune the noise of your heart with the noise which you make in the top of your, what we call throat, like noise, is the noise which does a lot of things for man. First of all, it brings the soul to a balanced frequency, to a balanced noise. Secondly, this noise in your sinuses creates nitric oxide, which is the creator, the condition that relaxes, opens up, whatever terminology you want to say, of your blood vessels. It's not a disinfectant, it is part of it. But the whole objects of this, when you make a continuous noise and then you superimpose it with the heartbeat, then this allows the soul to understand a lot of functionality to bring balance. If you even make a noise during your intake of the air and when you exhale, makes a big difference. If you hear, those are experts. They hum in the inhaling or they hum in exhaling, because each noise within the structure releases certain characteristics of the soul of the man in the dimension of physicality, which allows the man to have a healthy blood cell, healthy sugar, healthy everything else. But the science of man have not understood to bring this together. So now you see, you hear the noise. Now you see, you breathe the air. But what is missing is that noise. It's that sight which needs, even the condition of your heart depends what energy is absorbed from the environment into the cell of the body of the man. Now, go back to the past 3-4 weeks of teaching. Remember what you have to do with the sight. Remember learning about the breathing. Then remember the noise and bring the three together. And if you can control it, if you can make the right noise in the right sequence, with the right breathing sequence, with the right connection to the dimension of the soul, you can transmute. It needs a mastership of understanding the work of the plasma, not the dimension of the physicality. This is why those who can even lift themselves, if you notice, they control the whole three together. It's not a magic if you understand it. But there is a need for a fourth factor to create that energy. What to absorb from the universe to create, absorb, transmutation. And this is the key, which in the next week or two, I'll open up. And if you understand, then you understand how far, with all the knowledge of the man about his brain and his, what we call the structure, has not understood what actually the work is. Now, with the teaching of next week, I'll bring to you to understand how your body absorbs that 80%, which I've been telling you for years. The conversion of the universal energy into the physical energy that the man needs for his survival, for his life. And if you learn how to change that energy from the universe into the dimension of your physicality, you become more or less what we showed in Beijing in 2025 by the right combination of the fields, breathing, emotion, and sound. You can today want apple juice, and you feel and you create the taste of apple juice. You don't need Keshe Foundation to give you on the app.
And of course, this is exactly what Mosfeq had just stated, that if we learn it, again, the system with the Keshe Foundation will help to ingrain the understanding, but if you can do it on your own, you don't need the Keshe Foundation to, as he said, give you an apple. Continued success to all those pursuing.
You can live for thousands of years without killing. You can live for thousands of years without destroying another life. And it's been built in the structure of the man, but man have not understood how to work it, how to create that condition of converting the energy of the universe into the dimension of physicality. The most important teaching of the Keshe Foundation in its history and the cornerstone of what we came here for will be unraveled next week and the week after. Then you understand, Mr. Keshe has been saying 80%. I show you more or less you can make it 100% of what you need from the environment. You'll never touch another food. You never kill another person. You never kill another object to survive. The key is your openness to understand the science of creation, to understand how, as individuals, you stand to gain from the science and the point of creation. And that material, that structure is in one shape or another in every living thing in the universe with intelligence. That is the cornerstone of the change of the life with intelligence, with mutation, with capability to survive in the deepest and hottest points of this universe, in the most radioactive part of this universe. And as a nuclear physicist, for the first time, I open this key to you to understand how simply you are the most advanced nuclear reactor, walk with it, live by it, you're a converter of it, and you never knew. The key to change the energy of the soul to the energy of physicality, and how you can transfer the emotion of physicality into the emotion of the soul of the man, is one of the most glorious teachings of the Keshe Foundation next week. And then if you understand, and if you can translate this knowledge into the knowledge of existence and follow what we did for past 2 years with the soul, and now you understand how is the structure into the next step, then you see your soul is just a control room and not provider of the energy. It decides how much energy you absorb, and in connection with the heartbeat, in connection with the emotion of the life, in connection with the air you breathe, dictates how you appear, how you feel, how you walk, what's your emotion these seconds and the next. Why some of you get Alzheimer's, and why some of you get Parkinson, and why some of you have a coma, and you will come back the way we shown when they old. Then you understand you do not need the brain to survive. You have to understand the structure of the fields of the plasma of the control room. Yeah? You can live as a dog, you can live as a cloud, you can live as anything in any environment in the universe, because when you transmute, you're still a learner. You just learn to drive, you're going to end up in the lava, and you're going to end up in the deepest parts of the universe by accident. And you don't want to die, but you know the principle of how to control the magnetic field of the universe using your soul, understanding how the soul works, and then understanding how the physicality of the man through the brain of the man feeds the man. Your brain is not for thinking and your emotion. This is what they have again misled you. Your brain's job is to convert the energy of the universe into for you to survive as a human being. Who told you your brain is for your intelligence and you have memory? A child doesn't understand, so we teach it the nursery. Next week, and from now on, you will understand without your brain in the functionality connection to the soul, you have no energy. You cannot convert. Your brain is not an information center. Your brain is a generator, converter of the fields, is a transformer, changing the field of the universe into the energy of the physicality. That's where your 80% comes. You got all the knowledge about your brain upside down because that's all you think. The brain thinks. I get my emotion from brain. And our scientists who are in the matter state, they're 100% correct because they don't have the knowledge to understand. They haven't had the knowledge from the science. From what I teach you next week, you will understand the world of science and technology and medicine and energy will change. This is the promise of Messiah. We deliver to you as Messiah of your own souls to save yourself, to understand the working of yourself. Because you have been told your brain is the center of your intelligence. What a rubbish. Yes, a little bit. But without understanding the functionality of the soul, with the structure of the physicality of the man, you can walk the path of the man. Eat, drink, whatever, breathe, like the cows, the sheep, and the rest. But if you understand, your brain is not for this job. Your brain in the dimension of physicality is the energy source of your body. It's in a way, is a deeply working, functioning plasma nuclear reactor, which converts the energy from outside into the energy inside. Our nuclear reactors get the energy from inside and they change it and becomes power you get on the electricity. Your brain has the functionality of absorbing energy from the universe and then converting it into the energy for the physicality to live. You do not need to kill if you know how to compensate for it. Even the shape of your brain gives you the direction. Why the shape of the brain of man is forward to the front. Why that is connected to your eyes. Why your eyes is underneath of it. Now you understand how man, just observing the physicality, have missed the knowledge of the creation. And then when you're in the universe, you understand the way here it's very much like a decoding machine. Up to now, you send a message and you call it, my emotion, my thoughts, whatever. But this machine itself, inside it, is a decoder of the fields of the universe into you. This is how you absorb 80% of your energy from the universe and through your brain convert it to the energy you use, and then interaction of this energy with the environment, inertia of where you live, gives you a feature of Chinese, English, whatever you are. Aliens, different features, and whatever. Most of the creatures in the universe are not aware of this knowledge. But man in the dimension of physicality has, due to the process of understanding the world, have managed to create the body of the man. When you look at your thyroid gland and the heart, as I explained before, then you understand that thyroid gland is a filter between the physicality and the energy of the universe. And they're all exactly the same, angled in different way to create different fields and dimension. Ask yourself why even my lungs expand and contracts every time I breathe. It could have stayed the same, but that emotion of the lung, that emotion of the change of the fields, in conjunction with the heartbeat of the man, interacting with your thyroid gland, and then interaction of the body filters to go to the soul, decides Your intelligence decides everything else about the color of your eyes to the skin and your capability to transmute. That heartbeat is not to show you're alive. That heartbeat is being created, that noise, that what you hear in your ear, is the balance between what can be transmuted from physicality to energy, and to energy to the plasma operation of your soul and the rest of it. I'm made man in the image of myself. I don't need no ears, but I need to understand the knowledge of creation, and I need no eyes as I create through the dimension of the fields of the universe the image of the creation. In the coming weeks, we'll revolutionize the world of the science of the man. The world of medicine will change because now you will understand something very simple. You can create a brain if you know how to give it its dimension, energy field conversion into the dimension of physicality. This is why we have part of the brain of the Naomi on the street with the hammer in her head, and then how we built it that the doctors cannot say which was missing. Now you will understand how we controlled it in the disguise of the helmets and the rest. It's for you to connect. It's for you to understand why and how wrong the world of science, not wrong in a way, you just look at the physical side, you don't understand the operation of the plasma side. The energy side has been ignored because man never understood. And then how you understand your fingers are the most important part of your life for the meager energies you use. The shape of your arms, the structure of your lungs, the structure of your stomach dictates what are called dimension of life, how you can transmute if you understand, how you convert the energy of the universe in the skin of your body into energy with the skin needs. The dimension of physicality we eat to transfer energy in the lymph. Our lymph does not have the color of the meat, does not carry the taste of the banana, but it's all transparent energy, and in conjunction with the system which we have in our body, in conjunction with the conversion of the energy from the universe, converts your muscles, converts into your bone and everything else. The fundamental structure of the creation of the man, where the universe meets the man in the body of the man, has never been understood. You see it in every picture, but in a way, you forgot. And you never understood that where you don't mix the two, you cannot create the two. Dimension of physicality and dimension of soul. Then you understand why you have psychosomatic problem, because what happens in the dimension of emotion, which sits near the soul, in interaction with dimension of physicality, which sits in the body of the man, the two has never been understood. You take one of the two out, there is no life. You create the condition of one to exist and the other one to be with it. You can grow fingers, nails, you can cut the head's man and build the whole head again. This is what in the next weeks of teaching we bring for you to understand. Share the knowledge of next week's teaching and on with all the doctors, with all the scientists. Send it to them. Flood the internet if you have such a connections with all your people, that then you see how much humanity changes. Would you kill again? Or would you allow your soul to absorb the energies of the universe through your brain and feed it to your body, that you do not need to exist in the dimension of physicality? This teaching of next week, if you understand and get the scientists to listen, to post it to everywhere, then you understand how much you've been living in a shell of what we call schizophrenic, where the physicality and the dimension of the soul of the man work together, live together, but you never understood how your soul feeds you, how your soul decides what is absorbed from the universe in conjunction with the noise, with the heartbeat of your physicality. I made man in the image of myself, but man never understood what my image is. This is why you have this problem. This is why humanity is in a mess today and goes from one point to another to survive. Understand that the noise, what you hear from your ear, is the fundamental point of your survival. Without that heartbeat, without that noise, you cannot exist. You hear it as a heartbeat, but in fact, without that beat, even the brain of the man has made the skull to reflect that heartbeat to a noise over on top of your soul. If you cut the skull, the top head part of the skull, you will not hear any noise. The reflection of the fields of the pumping of the heart reflects back on your skull, which creates that noise of heartbeat. That noise in interaction with your soul dictates your physicality. Why, when you get anxious, your blood pressure goes up, your heartbeat goes up, and you interact different way? How come when your emotion goes high, when you see your lover, the same thing happens again? Listen to your heartbeat. Listen to your blood pressure. Listen to what comes in as the emotion, and then you understand how you can feed yourself without anything in the space. You can stay alive for hundreds of thousands of years. Man does not need the physicality, but through the construction of the brain of the man, man has become physical. Now, the whole science of creation, to get to that final point, is very near. You learn about the soul, you learn about the ganses, and you understand how the ganses goes. When we come to the last part of the teaching of this session, this section of the teaching, you understand how important it was for you to learn how to make that CO2. Why we taught you this at the end, why we taught you how CO was made. Then you understand how to handle the cosmic balls in your hand, you can change everything in your life. The way you eat, the way you breathe, the way you interact, and the way you set your life up. But you have to understand everything in detail. The connection of the sight, the rhythm of the breathing, the conversion of the noise in a given time. Then you put these three, which is in your head. Then you understand why these have been put for you in one place to literally surround your soul, to convert it. Your sense of taste, in a way, has nothing to do with it, because your taste was built for physicality, to attach you more to the dimension of physical. You taste the food, you taste your partner, you kiss your child. The tongue of the man is the anchor of man to the world of physicality. Man does not need a mouth, but that was the way we could get him. Now we go for a break, and I hope you understood where we are heading for, and I hope you understood what I've been telling you for years, how your 80% which you denied comes to you and you have no clue. And it only comes through the teaching of nuclear technology. A neuroscientist, a neurodoctor doesn't understand, has no comprehension of what he has in his hand. Doctor, he operates on the brain. When he does this, I wonder if he ever touches a brain. There is no need for brain surgery if you understand what we teach next week. We are masters of the knowledge. And unfortunately, we have to heckle with the useless, brainless governments of this planet. And we'll win. We dictate. No, the terms is ours. And it's time for man to move out of control of a few to feel they're important. Next week's teaching will be so fundamental that many of you might even want to change a lot of things around your life, because then you need to understand, do I need to be on this planet? Or is it time for me to educate myself to become man of citizen? In a way, it's the first time we give you the key to leave this village of earth with your own understanding and with your own access and knowing that you can come back. But the universe is in your hand. The transmutation is in your hand, because now you have the key, but you have to understand how to absorb the energies of the universe. As I said, by October of this year, as is promised, we'll fulfill. But now we're getting to that point that now you need to practice. The next 3 or 4 months, there are following teachings will bring you to that point. I hope those of you who understand stay with us on this planet to teach the others, that we bring the freedom to all, not just for a few to be privileged that I can do. We go for a break, we come back. We carry on with what we like to talk and what you have questions about. Break, take us for a break and we come.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Keshe.
Truly amazing revelations that I've never thought about or even contemplated some of these ideas that are being proposed. Again, universal teacher, and we're all becoming universal teachers. Any comments from anyone before we go to create the Dome of Peace and then Alex's teaching? Anyone push back in their seat a bit? You feel the power of this knowledge that's being conveyed to all of us, but it's for you to apply it. But we'll get some help in a way.
Well, what I've been practicing, Mark, is I got about 15 acres of grass to cut here. So, and the farthest point of the grass is about a quarter of a mile from the house. And that's usually when, by the time, if it's 75, 80 above, I get thirsty. So I've been practicing taking the moisture right out of the air into my body. And it's been working well. And I'm not so thirsty. And then the amazing thing is I do have to urinate after, and it seems like, where's this extra water coming from? Did I really take in 3 cups of water from the atmosphere? So the body is doing some kind of a conversion for sure.
Yeah, we're all opening it up in a way for ourselves, and how you trigger it may be slightly different than the way I trigger it and so on. But we're again, you do it the way it works for you. It becomes a new physics, as he said. And are you getting thirsty from cutting the grass, or maybe?
Well, it's just because there's been so many mosquitoes this year, you have to wear a long sleeve shirt and you get pretty warm.
Right. I was going to say, maybe if you can, in a way, convince the grass not to grow so quickly, you wouldn't have to cut it so often.
Well, that happens when you get 20 inches of rain in 2 months.
That sounds a lot to cut.
Oh, it grows so much. I've never seen it grow this high. I've never seen all the flowers. Where did all these extra daisies and flowers where did they come from? Did they come from the neighbors, from the wind blowing? Who knows?
Yeah, amazing what we're discovering here, and more to be opened up next week. Again, beyond our full understanding, but we can certainly start to apply it. Thank you, Randy. Anyone else? And of course, this is the only location that I know of where you'll get this sort of knowledge, what's being taught here by what we call a universal teacher. said, what's promised will be delivered. But again, it's for you to apply it, to become a Messiah of your own soul. So just amazing, step by step, we're elevating the entire planet. And then, as he said, even entities in the universe are not aware of some of this knowledge. So this is why he said we'll catalog it here and then export it accordingly. So what a position mankind is in. As we heard, the universal community considered us insignificant dust in the universe. Four-wheelers, we were still sort of connected to the ground with the tires and all that, but now we're going to start to become significant dust in the universe as we're going to be sharing this knowledge across. So this is part of the bigger process, perhaps. Any other thoughts anyone would like to add? Thank you again, Randy. Before we go to create the Dome of Peace, and then Alex's teaching. I just wonder why I've never thought of some of these things myself. Even the work of the belly button. So it's just a phenomenal journey, and much, much more to open up, I believe. Okay, if there's no further comments, I'm sure we'll continue to explain this more and more. We're going to go to create the Dome of Peace, which is a continual work of the Keshe Foundation knowledge seekers and others in here, where we sort of make that collective bouquet out of some of Randy's flowers, in a way, of different fields. And so it's a two-step process in creating the Dome of Peace. And it was amazing when he said that we will connect our systems to the GANs you have made over the years, and perhaps the GANs you've released into the environment. We see this in there. So every day at 9 p.m. Central European Time, you're all invited by the Universal Council and unifying at the soul level every day for the elevation of all the leaders, religious leaders, and totality of the Keshe Foundation. Not a day job. And again, just getting us used to working in this dimension of energy. As he said, we're opening up this mystery of the matter state of the entity to its energy dimension, let's say. So this is all part of the work, and now we create a beautiful bouquet of energies. Again, not a formal meeting. If you'd like a formal meeting, you can join the Brazilian team. And these are a couple of the placards they had made for us to share. So on Sunday, we're releasing GANs waters together. And then on a daily basis at 3 p.m., we're elevating the soul of the world leaders and the soul of the religious leaders, as we just read, the totality of the Keshe Foundation and so on. On Wednesday, the daily intention is at 6 p.m. All other times it's at 2 a.m. You can see the links here on the bottom of the screen. A beautiful group, and they're more than happy to accommodate you, especially if you're speaking Portuguese and would like that factor. Much of this is in English, but they also share and are fully capable of sharing in Portuguese and probably a few other languages. And this is part of the work of us as a collective to bring the change, to awaken the collective awareness, to bring the change through create the conditions through the dimension of energy. As he said, if we just release the technology to mankind in 1 or 2 generations, 20 years, 40 years, you'll be right back to the same position unless we elevate the soul of the man. And that's what this whole process is. And then I think we'll export it across the universe. Beautiful that you can leave and always know you can come back to the most beautiful place in the matter state in the universe. But of course, the harshness of its living is what's being addressed as well. Beautiful place, but the existence is tough. So what's happening with the One Nation Network and everything else, it's going to make existence on this planet certainly the land of milk and honey. And this is what's been promised. And of course, more to come, as he said. as the time moves on. So let's just go through this briefly. And again, it's an ongoing process of creating this dome of peace. And let's hear from Stefania first. I think Mr. Keshe put this together about releasing Gans waters and so on. And then, of course, the collective power of the soul. So it's something for the physicality to do in tandem with the soul of the man, in a way. And of course, if you're not familiar with GANs, it's gas as a nano solid. If you're able to follow it on the Keshe Foundation wiki, it makes a nano, these interaction of fields. It creates a nano of itself, which appears as a solid in the matter state. I think that's why he was talking about, we taught you the GANs, just to see the different interactions of different energies and what's created. Now, you can do that within your own structure without metal plates or wires or anything else. But he said it was very important. So different energy combinations create, like he said, in the CO2 box, you get the fields of carbon, but you also get many, perhaps you're gravitating 20 or 30 or 40 other elements in this whole process. So much more to learn. But let's go to this process, which is part of our, in a way, responsibility, once we know, to contribute to this process and awaken the other souls to participate and bring the change. As he said, the universal community could do it in a second, but if they do it, we won't keep it. We actually have to want the change in a much deeper way than what we're seeing today. I think many people do, but apparently the world's spokespeople are not quite ready, even though they know fully what is on the table. So let's go to the first step of creating the Dome of Peace, which is releasing the Gans waters.
I don't know if anyone wants to read this Dome of Peace. Anyone want to offer?
I
With
will
a nice
read it
voice.
for you.
Okay.
This is what came in and what is now become a pattern. This is from a guy, I don't know him, but he says, please remember this Sunday and every Sunday from now on, till we raise the soul of this planet to a peaceful planet. Keshe Foundation knowledge seekers worldwide will spread the gas waters around the world at 12 p.m. Central European Time and or 18 p.m. Central European Time every Sunday at the same time as they choose which time to suit them. Thank you for participating in this greatest movement by the soul of the man to bring about the peace on this planet as the permanent feature of the life of this planet.
Okay, any questions on this process? It doesn't sound too hard. It's not very hard. It doesn't take a lot of physical work to create a GANs. If there's no questions, then we'll go to the second step, again, in this twinity process, which is the collective power of the souls. And again, we're opening this mystery of the matter state of the entity to its energy dimension. And I did put a link in the chat from the 23rd the 23rd Knowledge Seekers Workshop, how to learn how to pray through your soul. If you go to the last 18 minutes of the 23rd Knowledge Seekers Workshop, you'll see what Mr. Keshe taught. Again, learning to use that energy dimension, praying through the soul of the man, giving the emotions of peace, kindness, abundance, joy. And if the soul picks it up and changes the dimension within the dimension of physicality of the soul of that entity, this is what we're looking for. But we're not looking for it to look for it. We're just learning to operate in this energy dimension. It's up to that soul to pick it up, not to be force-fed. Any comments? So second step of the Dome of Peace, very similar, but in the energy dimension. Thank you, Stefania, and thank you, Shweta.
Anybody wants to read the Dome of Peace? Beautiful souls. Here? Okay. I'll read. this beautiful presentation of Dome of Peace. And the Dome of Peace is already here. All the knowledge seekers, truth seekers, lovers of humanity has built it in a way, spreading the guns, loving each other as shareholders. So I will read this as please remember every Sunday from now on until we raise the soul of this planet to a peaceful planet, Keshe Foundation knowledge seekers worldwide will spread the Gans waters around the world at 12 p.m. CET and or at 18 p.m. CET every Sunday at the same time, as they choose which time to suit them. Thank you for the participation in this greatest movement by the soul of man to bring about the peace on this planet as a permanent feature of the life of this planet. Mr. Keshe suggests we add the next step to create the dome of peace with power of the souls, as we have already going through this with the 2 eyes. And we ask you to spread the guns, waters each Sunday. Now we give you a new path. Now try to unite each other's souls. Try to elevate the souls of humanity, soul of humanity, through your own soul to a level that no one can touch, the embodiment of the human race. So beautiful. Choose a time where all of you come together on the soul level in a state of inner calmness. At that time, don't spread the water of guns, but spread your soul. Unite, and in time, we will make a new race out of the soul of man. And then, instead of doing it once a week, do it all the time. M.T. Keshe.
Okay, so we're just going to run through this very simple exercise. Again, working through the matter state to reach world leaders, you're going to need a big bag of money, and you probably won't even get an appointment. So we're working through the easier way, conservation of energy, through the dimension of energy, through the soul of the creator, through the soul of the man, and so on. Let me just say, again, this is part of this process, and I'll just bring up this little sort of, if we have it here, let me bring this one up. And this just shows it's just a charger, but in a way, it's what we're doing, creating that bouquet of energy and then giving to the soul of those who need it. And again, it could be your dog, your neighbor, your sister, your brother, your child. Right now, we're just focusing on the world leaders. So let's just take a minute. And again, you can pulse this, again, pulsing in a way. But just shows they're getting topped up. They're not quite there. As we hear in the 23rd Knowledge Seekers Workshop, the souls are quite low. They need a lot of elevation. So this is not a day job. We shouldn't say, well, I tried it last week and I didn't see any change in the world. No, the Chinese have been doing it for probably over a decade, and this is part of the process until we reach that permanent peaceful condition on this planet. So let's just let me just bring up another screen here. We can use the timer. So let's just take 1 minute, and we'll start now as we combined on the energy dimension to elevate other souls. And again, you've become a Messiah that you've learned to give through your soul, which leads to elevation of others. And in that process, I believe, you actually get fed or elevated in the same sort of manner. So let's just take 1 minute and we'll start now. And that's just how easy the process is. So join us every day at 9 p.m. until we see a permanent peaceful position on this planet. So again, this will go on for quite some time into the future, most likely. More and more people will be working in the dimension of peace, but yet the others may come along at a later time. And don't be proud or rub it in their faces, I told you so, and so on. And I've been telling you this for years as we stay humble in our position so that we can learn more and understand more. So thank you all again in advance for your continuing process and elevation. And review that 23rd Knowledge Seekers Workshop, the last 18 or 20 minutes, and you'll get a better understanding of what this process is. And the beauty of the entire process is nobody fails this test. So you're all successful even before you start, if you choose to start. But it's you who has to open it up. Thank you again. Okay, as I said, Alex unfortunately is not here today, but he did send me a presentation. It's called Screwworms by Skoric. So thank you, Alex, for sending this. Hopefully you're having as much fun. May you enjoy with abundance whatever you're doing. But let's bring up Alex's teaching. Again, it's not perfectly sized. Whoops. Let's see, did I lose it? I could have, but I think I have it in another place here where I can bring it back up. Where did you go? Sometimes these things happen as we move around on these screens. And here it is. I'll bring it back up. So what I'll do is I will, Gail, if you could monitor the background, I will go to the full screen. And when I do that, my other screen that I usually use for the meeting and the controls are all disappear. But we're going to do that because this is not quite properly sized. So we're going to enter the full screen and we're going to listen to Alex's presentation, which is about 1 hour. We'll have a time for questions, and then if there aren't too many questions or whatever, we will play the final disclaimer and the session will end. But hopefully Alex will rejoin us as soon as he can. So we're going to let this play through for your enhancement. Thank you, Alex, for sharing. And I'm sure there's many points in here that I missed, but that you're touching, that I just, as Mr. Keshe has indicated in some of your teachings, you may touch certain points that even you were not aware of touching. So again, we're in and around the knowledge, and we appreciate your sharing, your understanding that we can incorporate some or a lot of it into our own understanding. And I think that's part of the Keshe Foundation teachings, is you share what you think you understand about this technology. Thank you again, Alex, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Are we?
Good afternoon, everyone. This is the Keshe American Knowledge Team.
Just making sure we're seeing the screen. Anyone can confirm?
Perfect.
Okay, here we go.
Coming together in the year of 2026. So we'd like to get into business here. And so please stand by.
Disclaimer: the information and education material contained herein is meant to promote the general understanding and dialogue of GAN's processing. Such information is not meant or intended to serve as a substitute for a healthcare professional's clinical training, experience, or judgment. For patients and individuals, such information is not to be a substitute for professional medical, therapeutic, or healthcare advice or counseling. For medical issues or concerns, including decisions about medications and other treatments, readers, viewers, listeners should always consult their physician or, in serious cases, seek immediate assistance from emergency personnel. Prescription information, procedures, and use of medical devices information should be undertaken only by properly trained and certified medical personnel. We specifically disclaim any warranties, express or implied, including implied warranties of merchantability or fitness for a particular purpose. Such information is provided, as is, and is believed to be accurate at the time of its publishing, but it is the viewer's job to evaluate the accuracy of any information found in this presentation. Every case presented is of their own experience, applied by themselves for themselves, and it applies to their case only. Every person experiencing health problems should seek professional medical advice and consult their course of treatment with a doctor. The processes of plasma balancing described herein are a natural process which supports the body but does not replace medical advice or therapies one is already subject to.
And thank you very much, everybody. Welcome to the Keshe American Knowledge Team meeting of 2026. And we are in the process of bringing to you presentation today. And this is the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute, teachings on plasma science. We're discussing intermediate matter tech, and today's subject is screwworms. My name is Alexander. I'm from Canada. It will be July the 12th of 2026 as part of the Keshe Foundation North America Plasma Education Series. An interesting topic indeed, and it's part of the continuing series as we try to make sure that the advanced knowledge seekers have more food for thought, but the new knowledge seekers cannot be left behind. That does not work, as many things we find out do not work. So what we're looking at here is a continuation of the Intermediate Matter Tech series, where we have discussed the Lord of the Rings and the plantations. And today we're going to carry on with the screwworms, because somehow, some way, it is a continuation of our Rings of Duality series. What we've been looking at is how the star formations come head to head and create this field. And then inside is another field of star formations head to head. And each of them is a maggrav, but coming together, there's a relationship between the two fields. And although they form a maggrav, there is a directional flow where the outer ring is magnetical and the inner ring is gravitational. So these are the rings of duality, and we see in the cosmic eggs rings that we see also the duality of the rings, what we call the Lord of the Rings or the Hobbit of the Rings. So one is the universal form, which has direction of time, space, and how it's evolving. And the other is in the hologram on the other side of the nucleus. So we refer to these as either a black hole or a white hole. And then we see at one end where the point where the flow of time-space turns towards the opposite pole of the ovoid. So these fields are working together, and our understanding needs to mingle with that. So we know that we as lords of the density, and we understand that gravity seeks density. Density operates within the Coulomb barrier. The Coulomb barrier obviously operates within the Earth space. But our Earth space is a maggrav where it's constantly in balance. And so we have these dualities of density manufactured through concentric rings and spirals. And we're going to talk more about spirals today because the subject of the New World screwworm came up. And it's ironic because guess who brought the subject up? It was the World Health Organization, another scare on the horizon. And so I'll attempt to pronounce this, the Cochleomya hominivorax is a New World screwworm fly. And it is simply a screwworm or a screwworm and is a species of parasitic blowfly whose larvae feed on living tissue of warm-blooded animals. It is present in the New World tropics. So here we are in North America. We are part of the New World. That's what they consider. And what is interesting about this particular parasite is that it attacks healthy tissue. And that's where the alarm came from with respect to the World Health Organization. But, you know, if we understand how things work, then we can deal with it. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to deal with how the world works because of the copious quantities of misinformation that is being thrown at us. And it begins with many anomalies, such as the discussion of lords and gods. You see, lords are in plural, or gods are in plural. And of course, we refer to some gods like Aphrodite and Zeus. And then, of course, chariots of the gods. And then, of course, you're going to need parking lots for these chariots. So it's a matter state reference to a spaceship, isn't it? And if you are part of the unwashed masses and you don't understand rockets, but you understand horse-drawn chariots, these chariots are different because they have a flame coming out from the behind. So there's clearly something going on here when we look at the raindrops and how they manufacture beacons. A raindrop always hits the bullseye and imparts this magnetical field strength through its gravitationally inherent picocore, as we discussed this in the plasma science. And it manufactures these waves that go up and they go down. But they form concentric circles, and these circles get larger and larger the farther away they go from the bullseye. And what is interesting, of course, is that when we look at tuning forks, they also create a waveform similar, how the waves get larger and larger as they go away from the center point. So there's external forces and they facilitate an environmental interaction. So the tuning fork is vibrating and it creates a waveform. And when it comes in contact with the surface of the water, it also creates a waveform. But this is distinctly different from that of a raindrop because there is no physical interaction. And so this is where we see the anomalies between the various highways that we travel. We like to travel on autobahns, motor highways. We understand frequency. That's a transmission highway. But that's only a carbon-12 highway. When we look at the transition state, we see the carbon-14 and the carbon-10, a total of carbon-24. Well, that's good. We've gone from 12 to 24. But in the transmutation highway, we have carbon-16 and carbon-8. That is still carbon-24. So what does that tell you? It tells you that we're missing something on our transmission and our understanding of the transmission. So it looks like we're missing complete carbon-12. And so what are we missing? Well, there's another anomaly, and we see in the subject of contraction. You see, well, lungs expand and lungs contract, whereas muscles tighten and muscles relax. And then you see fists they will clench. And from the clenched position, fists can open. Well, what fists cannot do is not open. Growth can only grow. You cannot not do something. Not actually does not work in the universe. So this leads us to the anomaly of the Ten Commandments, where we see the duality between the terms Lord and God. I am the Lord, your God. And then, of course, the other rules, thou shalt not do this and not do that. And as we carry on with another anomaly, we are made to feel weakness, faults, failings, and weaknesses. We are the fallen angels. And in that process, we increase our density, which increases pressure and increases gravity. It increases our dependence on the earth space feeding, forgetting where that internal pressure of the Gans fields came from, which balanced off that angular momentum. And that's why this momentum is conserved. So what appears as a duality ends up being a dual, a confrontation, where energy manifests as friction and fists manifest into fighting. This creates a division in our society, and it comes through racism. And then, of course, we have other attributes, lying and cheating, and we wonder, would a chronic liar actually believe you? It's all part of the inertia density manifestation. And so that's what we focus on, but we need to be graceful. So gentlemen, please shake hands and then come out fighting, because we all need our self-serving energy binding dimension point, that focal point of me, myself, and I, that bullseye of energy consumption. But we do that at the expense of others. Do we really need to do that? Because the others also need that self-serving energy binding dimension point. So in that process, those who steal, lie, cheat, and kill for that vitality are robbing you of your loosh. What they fail to realize is that they are robbing themselves of their own loosh. And so in that process, they're looking for a vitality enhancement. And everyone's looking for vitality enhancement. And what does that mean? That means an emotional and physical vitality capacity enhancement. And regular doesn't cut it. We need something super, like a superconductor. And in order to achieve that, we had to step out of the box to get in from the microtechnology into the nanotechnology, where we created a superconductor at room temperature. And this is the plasma science, stepping up at orders of magnitude, which are 10 times on each step. And 3 steps will be 10 times 10 times 10, 1,000 times. And that's how we arrived at the Beijing conference last year. And we were beyond that state where the 2025 gold rush began. And now we're in the 2026 silver rush. And that seems to be fading because there are many rushes going on. The one that's most important, of course, is the rush of knowledge. And so we see that there is a pico core that's part of the atomic structure, which takes us beyond that nano monatomic state. And there's that beacon, just like the raindrop facilitates a beacon of that gravitationally inherent field strength and creates this emission array from that nebulous blurry point in the nano gap. What? Well, what's more important? Is the point more important, or is the gap more important? And so we continue to learn about the plasma science through Marin Tavakoli Keshe's books. Book number 1, The Universal Order of the Creation of Matter, the coming together of 3 different types of strengths of fields, a matter, a dark matter, and an antimatter. And as they come together, they create this matter. That's what we're talking about, matter tech. But when you have in book number 2, the structure of the light, that too is a matter tech, and it combines or connects to other matter fields. So you have a duality and a connection between that duality. So how do we achieve that duality when we are always representing singularity? In book number 3, The Origin of the Universe, shows how the singularity splits up into a duality. Cells do the same thing. They multiply through division. And so we have man's universe and our sister universe. But ignore the sister's universe because we're ignoring the rest of man's universe. We're just confined to that little tiny speck we call Earth space and our little domicile, which may be a modern day cave, which we call a condominium. And we're quite content with that. So for 438 weeks, Rick Crammond and the Universal Council have been bringing forward the one planet, one nation, one race for justice and world peace concept to introduce us to the fact that there is more to this world than we give credit to. So there is a plasma rule that we have to really understand, and we continually repeat, reinforce, because the higher strength feeds the weaker strength. And this is the kind of problem that we have where the higher strength is only feeding it for a few hours a week. And for 24 hours, 7 days a week, we are told that we are the weaker. And so we need to be taken advantage of. That becomes the transaction zone of abuse, that conflict point. But as we said, the abuser and the abused come together in a binding zone, and it's all part of the inertia density manifestation. So there are sequence orders that follow the gravitational attraction and the magnetical repulsion. And you, as the last man standing, do have choices. You can either turn on, turn off the feeding, or increase or decrease the strength, enhance or diminish your position. So the stronger does feed the weaker. And this is why we captured this field, this physical field, which gave us that rock solid evidence, which we call Earth space. And that was our reality bullseye dimension that we arrived at. But it was hard to target that because we had to attach some kind of sentimentality to it, an emotional connection to that little pie in the sky. And we did that by discriminating because we said, well, Venus, that's not me. And Mars, well, that's not me anymore. And Earth, well, this is me. And this is me where I have arrived. And so when we arrived, we had to question who has the authority. And we had to understand better the ups and downs of our life. So the basic reference is that the sun is up and our boots are on the ground. So regardless where we are on this planet, we're not upside down and we're not down under and we're not on the ceiling. We are firmly planted on terra firma. That's why they call it that. But when we look at the cell metabolism, we see that we have to take the nourishment in and cast out our waste. And that is part of the magnetical casting out that comes from that bullseye in that nucleus and goes out, but not in a concentric ring like the phospholipids, but in a spiral, which gets us back to the screwworm. And so we see that the screwworm is actually teaching us how to do construction, and every carpenter is familiar with screws. They have a spiral thread. And when you take a screwdriver and apply it to the head of the screw and you rotate it clockwise, the screw moves into the matter state. And when you screw one in, a single screw will fasten two pieces of wood together, but they can pivot. But if you fasten two screws together into the wood, then you stop the twisting. It becomes much more stable. So this is where the partnership comes in. Now, what is the difference between a screw and an auger? Because an auger is a tool or a machine featuring a helical, oh, there we go, screw-like blade, and the spiral rotates to bore holes or to move loose materials like dirt, grain, or ice. Or in the instance of the Archimedes screw, which is an ancient machine, it's used to transfer water, and it transfers it from a lower level to a higher level. It consists of there we go, a spiral helix that's inside a hollow cylinder. So as the shaft rotates, the bottom end scoops up the water, pushing it up the tube until it pours out at the top. So the difference between a screw and an auger seems to be that the auger is stationary and the medium moves through it, whereas a screw moves through the medium. But when the screw head breaks off, we need to remove it, we need a screw extractor, and that has a reverse thread. And so the reverse thread pulls the screw out in a counterclockwise rotation. So you have to take the screw extractor and screw it into the screw. Isn't that interesting? So when we look at the screws really close up, let's change it from basic carpentry to a little bit of science. The actual spirals consist of peaks and valleys. And the peaks are negative and the valleys are positive, which means that the peaks are magnetical and the valleys are gravitational. So obviously, the upside of the screw is magnetical and the downside of the screw is magnetical. The screw itself is gravitational, and the direction it goes is toward the pointy end. And so, of course, some screws come from the left side and some screws come from the right side, but they're really the same screw. It's just a carpenter's joke. The screws actually do flip over, and so you can use one screw and screw it in both ways. But what we want to talk about is the nature, and there's no better way to reference it than with fatty acid. The advanced amino acid construction, and we see how the saturated fatty acid is through these carbon connections, and on the upside are hydrogen, and then the downside are hydrogen, and there's a direction. There's a carboxyl delta end, which is the head, and a methyl omega end, which is the tail. And the tail is oil soluble, whereas the head is water soluble. This becomes very important when you have to understand what is going on with this particular design. So the exterior is magnetical and the interior is gravitational. And when you look at screws, they have different lengths and they have different thicknesses. Well, fatty acids have the same thing. And you look at the table of fats and you see the longer the chain, the higher the melting point. Which means it's more and more gravitationally stable as it becomes more complex. So the shorter the chain, the more unstable it is, and the more magnetical it is at that point. And you could say the same thing with screws. A long screw will anchor it very deeply, and a short screw doesn't have much to bite into. So that thing that they bite into is a cellulose. And last week we talked about protoplasm and its boundaries. The cell walls have distinctions. And the exact boundaries of the protoplasm depends on the organism. So we know there's an outside and inside, and in animal cells, there is no cell wall. Everything is inside the outer cell membrane. And everything inside is considered protoplasm. But in plants and fungal cells, there is a tough, rigid cell wall that is excluded from the protoplasm. So the actual living cell and its contents, minus the cell wall, are often referred to as a protoplast. So we have this rigid cell that is at the exterior wall, which is why trees bend in the wind and they don't break. And this is why wood is such a good construction medium. It's tough, it's rigid, but it will accept to be cut and screwed into and applied in various means. But what we want to reference is how we migrate from screws to amino acids to tornadoes. There is no wood. There is no screw. There's just a rotating spiral of energy. And you see that at the top, you see the head, and then how it gets pointy at the other end. So the energy is there in a plasma state. But there's an anomaly here. When we look at trying to get the phospholipids together, tail to tail, and if we did the same thing with star formations, we find that the outside is gravitational and the inside is magnetical. And we achieved this plasmatic superconductivity. And there's a motion. There's a motion in one direction. And we don't see it in the matter state. It's just a blur fill. And then when we have this laminar flow, we have multiple MAGRAV conditions of blur fill. And so the energy can travel over, under, or through. So there is no movement of the medium or movement of the screw. There's just energy in motion. And that energy in motion is what manufactures basic elements. So when we look at this amino acid star formation, we see the similarity between the solar system and its compounds and the human body and its compounds. And the outstanding feature that is different, of course, is the calcium, which is the inertia density manifestation component that brings together the principal matter, the PM ticks that are flying all over magnetically throughout the universe, traveling as an energy pack and then coming together in that plasma dilution force field, bringing together the antimatter, dark matter, and the matter gen, and converting it into a plasmagen, a field of energy. But that field of energy has to interact with another magrav, which we call Earth space. And then that interaction is a field interaction, which we call inertia. And that becomes the inertia density manifestation of physicality. So from the PM ticks, we chose our planet. We thought about it. We chose it in a dream. And we had this inertia manifestation, regardless of time and distance. And we had these overlapping fields of concentric circles and spirals. And we formed the three dimensions of our reality, the X, Y, and Z axis. But that was just one part of the transmission highway. So what was affecting our susceptibility? We were only looking at the upness, not the downness. And it was the problem with the downness is that it was just a blur fill. It was that valley between those peaks. But each ripple, each thread in the screw is a magrav. And so we wonder, is it dangerous to go down? We don't even want to look. But the fact of the matter is that the phospholipids have a gravitational head and magnetical tail. And in that process, they do this plasmagen conversion. That's part of a magrav component. But when we put them together as soldiers, and then we modulate them into a curvature through expansion and contraction, each one being a magrav, each one being gravitational in its nature, but the duality creates an outside and an inside. And in both cases, they would be magnetical. So that is how the nature is working. And it stems from our understanding of the pH condition of water, what we call the potentiation of hydrogen. And so we see the meaning of it when we compare the length of the DNA. When it's alkaline, it's intense. It squeezes together. When it's acidic, it's outtense. It relaxes a lot. So there is a tension balance in a healthy state. And so we're always looking for that X factor that gives us this balance. But what this X factor is really the rotating field. That one moment is up and the next moment is down. But it's not in singularity. You see, because that transaction zone in singularity requires a solo effort. Duality requires a partnership, and a partnership requires reciprocity, a balance of incentives. That's how you move forward, not through sabotage, but through digestion, where you convert food to GANs. That's part of the energy supplementation. And we absorb this nutrition essence as a gravitational attraction of energy. And we release the waste essence as a magnetical repulsion of energy. So we get this cellular stability that comes from that X factor of our choosing at that gravitational core, that bullseye, that neutron. But that neutron interacts with the environment. And so there are fields that are concentric to give the conformity of the cell, and then there are fields that are spiral to go from the inside to the outside. And it is in duality, which is to say there's a screw duality. That's why the DNA is a double helix. These are overlapping dual spirals, and they require partnership. And then we have more screw duality, where you have the double helix of the RNA. And that coming together is, at that point, the matter state to plasma state transitioning point. And so in the 630th Knowledge Seekers Workshop that we saw the graphs where we had these embedded inherent frequencies, where the soul and solar physicality threshold requires that blur fill. But the target is always a bullseye, because the soul and solar physicality always hit that bullseye. It's just, how do you cross that to get to the other side? How do we break through that barrier? And are we ready to break through? Well, while we contemplate that, we have to rationalize the fact that we have a peace dome shielding, that RNA feeding and the mRNA feedback. And that's how we get this matter-gen reflection state of the DNA. So that is always existing, and we don't have to do anything about it. It's there. This is all part of the universe. But did we understand it? So when we made the cups of life, we had to make two cups. Cup one was the cup of emotion, and cup two was the cup of physicality. Cup of emotion is magnetical, and the cup of physicality gravitational. And the two together created the cup of man. And so that is how we have exposed the plasma matter dilemma, where we have the physicality of the atomic and nano and GAN states, and then we have the non-physicality of the plasma state. And each one is in balance. And then each one has a magnetic energy transfer state. And that transfer state is also a maggraph, just like the PM tick. And just like our connection in the cup of the universe, where we have the connection between our bodies and the universe. And the connector is our brain. And it is also in duality. And so we bring together the copper GANs, which is physical, and the zinc GANs, which is emotional, and the carbogen, which is the connection. But there's a new language, and that language is love, because it's part of the emotional connection. And so is that connection symmetry, or is it a reflection? And as we try and understand these things, we see that we have to supplement. We have to supplement ourselves due to consumption. And so this consumption is an acquired knowledge that we arrived at as we arrived on Earth space. It's a conditional teaching by ancient teachers. But what about the unconditional teaching of the Creator? There's a 20% gap in terms of our needs. And so we have a new awareness that we have a shortfall. And that's the historical threshold between the cosmic feeding and the loosh harvesting. So when we look at our physical autonomy, this is a capacity to draw on internal energetic reserves. We do this automatically, and to absorb the energy from the surrounding environment. The failure leads to nourishment supplementation from external food and water intake. And it creates a metabolic system alteration. So this is affecting our memory. Our memory has the same threshold. And we are at that tipping point between long-term memory and the freedom that connects you to the memory. So there's a lifelong memory, but there's a historical memory, and an ancestral memory, and a universal memory. And so that memory is ingrained in that double helix spiral of our RNA. And our memory capacity has a transgenerational capability to connect with our ancestral memory. So that is a cumulative cultural inheritance directly transmitted through the bloodline. But because we're born, that memory reboots with each generation. So our learning then is very slow because it requires relearning. And we use language, writing, and other examples. But the artificial intelligence is now allowing us to speed things up. And so we've had to speed up as well, because this is the fast channel of learning. So we still limited to readily accessible knowledge because it requires human intervention. And what constitutes human intervention is our understanding of the relationship with our soul. So our teaching has been limited to our understanding of words, terminology. It's very specific. On earth as it is in heaven. As above, so below. These are unfinished sentences. So it looks like the heaven is in and the earth is out. And so are we ready to break on through? Are we the pioneering angels, or are we just arrived? Are we seeking pathways? Are we ready to enter at our own risk? There is a risk of not doing anything. Does not work. So as we're pioneering America, then we really have to see, is it a reflection or is it an illusion? What about Aphrodite? Two faces of love. You know, men are not the only gold diggers, but as we dig down, we find things work in different ways. And so we see that the carbon inertia highways, although they migrate from the traditional transmission, transition, transmutation, there is a substructure. And that substructure also has a substructure. And so when we look at the cosmic rays, we see a different kind of equilibrium. There is a balance. The cosmic ray is a maggrav. And there's a magnetico-gravitational relationship. But there's also direction of flow. And there's also rotating fields. There's also concentric circles. And there's also spirals. And so we can now analyze how these things are working. So this theme of duality is to better understand our inherent susceptibility in singularity. It's truly an inherent susceptibility in duality. It requires a gravitational completion through an external input. And that input comes from the Gans field of humanity. We are that X factor. And so when we measure things in science, there are counterweights. So the physical state is using weight. The atomic state is using mass. But that's only part of the gravitational side. The nuclear state is using Teslas, and the plasma state uses time. That's part of the magnetical side. And so, just like bagels, there are no two plasmas the same. And there's always a difference. And one would be magnetical, and one would be gravitational. And so they feature a plasmatic manifestation coming together at that dimension point, that transaction zone, that physical manifestation maggraph. And each field is rotating, and they basically screw together in overlapping spiral fields and achieve this gravitational certainty or crossing that threshold from the non-visible to the visible. Even the oxygen does that. It gives you a visible fingerprint of an emission spectrum of its gravitationally inherent condition. And so you see the plasmatic decay to GANs and the GANs decay from gas to liquid to solid. And we achieve this physical anchorage. But we stay connected because we have inherent attributes. This gravitational confirmation at that center point, that picocore, gives you gravitational certainty, that mutually assured construction. So we are the array within the array, and as we go into these uncharted territories, we see that there are many stars beyond the nanomonatomic state. They cover the full range from decay to radiation, and that AI is that ancestral intelligence that shows that we are the technology and we are the inertia product and we are the image of our dimensional convergence point. And so we can make whatever we want to make in a timeless manner. Because our history shows the timelessness of the man, the myth, and the legends. Many of us are legends in our own mind, but there are Sumerian texts that also reference legends. And so the light shines on the plasma science, on the physical science, and the pseudoscience. And we have to discern, discriminate, and contend with anomalies like the Agartha concept of an immense legendary kingdom on the Earth's inner surface involving the king of the world or multiple kings, and they are said to rule and secretly influence events on the surface world. And so this has been popularized through occultism, science fiction, and of course the Hollow Earth myths. So what we're referencing through the spiral formation is the energy portability, where energy is modulated through state transition. Elevation is the physical matter state to energy state, or the inertia is the energy state to physical matter state. So the elevation involves expansion, whereas the physical manifestation involves contraction. The lungs expand and the lungs contract. So for 650 knowledge seekers workshops in a row, Keshe Foundation has been teaching the greater oneness, how to suddenly transcend the limitations of nuclear science. And we've been seeking research teams, and they are now in the process of converting diamonds to gold or silver or rare earth metals or whatever you want, because we're in the beyond the May the 10th of 2025 era where the picocore of truth is coming together. And with the game of peace and enlightenment, instead of self-service as lords, we are self-service in the service of others. And we need champions to lead the groups, because not all can play the game of peace and enlightenment, but all are part of the game of peace and enlightenment. So we're calling all gamers. We need champions to unlock the gateways, that emotional energy manifestation that differentiates between peace and prosperity, and of course war and poverty. But we are in the biosphere biosphere of peace, because the earth has an emotion as well. And so the majority will seek and will get the answer, because the call of freedom and emancipation, the universe is emotionally normal. Earth seeks freedom and emancipation, and man's existential adaptation defaults to the harvest of the plasma, emotional energy of the plasma universe. And we can't leave this subject without talking about some more circles, crop circles. These are large geometric patterns created by flattening crops like wheat or barley. Remember the rigid outer field of the cellulose? Well, they get flattened. How do they get flattened? Well, they're primarily occurring in the English countryside and across more than 50 countries. And early theories did link them to extraterrestrial activity, but scientific investigations and artists' confessions have proven the vast majority are elaborate, human-made hoaxes. Well, we are seeking a scientific rescue to open the blinds, hit the bullseye, and modulate that X factor, one nation network at a time. And that time is now. It is moving along to overcome that space racism, that science fact versus the science fiction, the universal councils that are earthbound and the universal councils that are spacebound. So in space, talk about world rulers or world leaders, warmongers or peacemongers. How do we rationalize the hand that kills versus the hand that caresses? We have a compassion racism burden, and it impinges on our capacities racism burden. Our mission is to bring peace on earth and join humanity with the universal community. We want to bring man as equal to all the beings in the universe by teaching the plasma science and technology equally to everyone, that no one is left out and no one is abused due to the lack of knowledge. This is Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute Teachings on Plasma Science, welcoming all the beautiful plasma travelers of the carbon nations, learning about the new frequencies of the new organic plasma science. There is a world peace treaty that you need to choose. You need to sign it unconditionally and mean it sincerely. That's how things change. The matter tech dominates our seed core manifestation, and the man-made margin between the war dome and the peace dome is what we need to bridge. Is the inertia of the present governed by dimensions of history, or is it time to learn the history of self in a universal context? See, the physical Maghreb state has a limited marginal strength capacity. It needs to be continually fed from external forces. So the plasma field spirals on the plasma plantations actually reveals the true nature of the physical matter state inertia conditions, which we so love and cherish and focus on. So now we understand that we've only been focusing on half the picture. The plasma science is the other half, and it's enhanced daily via the Peace Dome in a practical exchange for peace on Earth. So welcome to the new golden outer space age. I hope you enjoyed this class, and thank you for listening.
Okay, I think Milan has something to say. I see his mic jumping up and down. Milan, are you there?
Hello. Hello.
Yes, we hear you.
Yeah, I'm mowing lawn and listening, and I don't know, I don't know what the heck I'm touching. So I'm sorry about that.
No, it's no problem. I was,
I
yeah,
go ahead.
oh, go ahead.
No, no, go ahead. I was just
Say, Alex said that the MAGRAV is always in a balanced condition. Now, maybe I misheard him. I thought the MAGRAV is seeking balance. It's a dynamic system. But I think he said that last week in the presentation as well. A MAGRAV is always in balance. But when I think of the stronger feeding the weaker or the stronger elevating the weaker to its position, I consider that a dynamic position. Maybe you can address that, Alex, in a future class or something like that. But to me, it's not in balance. It's a dynamic system. Stronger feeding weaker, weaker feeding back to the stronger, the confirmation of its existence. So to me, it's a balance. And then once the weaker is elevated to the position of the stronger, maybe the dynamism reduces or finds a balance. But to me, a MAGRAV is a condition seeking balance or interaction of fields. Again, this is just my understanding, and Alex has packed quite a bit into this presentation. The second point on the crop circles, to me, I think they're using directed energy weapons in a kind of a show there to sort of create different patterns and different things. Again, the wheat has been sort of pushed over, but even before there was satellites and everything, people had observed their fields being pushed down. They actually saw a ball or a sphere or a plasma within their field. This is what's been reported, of course. And they called it a mowing devil. Again, back to the devil and those sort of things. But I think today they're so perfect and so laid out so perfectly that it has to be a template using some very weak fields, energy fields, to push that crop down and appearing as it. That's just my thinking of it. Anyone else have any thoughts on any of this teaching? And of course, I'm not quite clear on the blur fill and the rest of this, but anyway, there's a lot to unpack in all of this. Of course, Alex, we need you here to address some of these things. I'm just very green, let's say, in the plasma. Anyone else have a thought, a comment, or a question for Alex? I'm sure he'll listen to this teaching, at least to his part, and see if he has anything in there he'd like to address. Okay. Just a reminder, as I put in the chat, there is a testimonial meeting tomorrow at 8 p.m. Central European Summer Time, and that is in the public Zoom room, 939-474-503. All welcome to join, share a observation, a testimonial. As Rick likes to say, it's a way of paying back the Keshe Foundation for some of the understanding or something else you may have observed or noticed. I think we'll have more and more testimonials as the time goes on. And of course, tomorrow, and the reason I couldn't find the invitation was because it was in the Adobe. And tomorrow at, it appears at 1500 CEST, there's an actual association meeting of the Keshe Foundation where there'll be some voting going on. You should get an email if you haven't gotten one already. And sometimes it happens just a few hours before the actual session. Again, I don't know if this is on Zoom or there'll be a separate link to click on to join this meeting, but this will be the first meeting of the Keshe Association, which again, you can join that. We put that in the chat as well, keshefoundation.at. And the further work that we'll have to do, as he said, is to duplicate, replicate, copy exactly this foundation and set it up in your own nations, that others can start to avail themselves of the benefits of the game of peace and enlightenment. So if you're a member of the association, you can be there, or I think Mr. Keshe said you could vote by proxy. Again, like an absentee ballot, you'll be given that and so on. I don't know what the questions are. It was stated earlier, Mr. Keshe, by law, will not be in this meeting, as not to exert any undue influence over the association. Anyone want to add to that? I was thinking he was going to be there. I didn't know why he wouldn't be. And of course, the Keshe coin, we've now seen a constitution of the Keshe coin written. I haven't studied it. Ed has sent a link, but I'm sure we'll get into it more and more. All done for you. I'm sure you'll replicate that as well as part of this association and this understanding. But all the work seems to be done in the background. As he said, we'll handle everything in the background. All we have to do is listen, but there may be a few things we can do, like set up independent or associations in nation states that are linked to the association, as apparently this linking process is going on in the background through the coins and the magravs and the Mark Ray Company and the different research centers and so on, which is all being linked up in a very, very interesting way, let's say. Any other thoughts or comments from anyone? Otherwise, we'll play the final disclaimer. Look forward to this week's teaching. Again, another huge Rubik's Cube in a way, or mystery to unravel, but it may be getting a bit easier and easier to unravel these things as we move forward. Okay, I'm not hearing any responses, so I want to thank everyone for participating today, even if it was on the silent line of communication, although we did have some interactions. I'm sure the souls were interacting quite vigorously in the background. Sometimes we don't even know the souls interacting, but they apparently seem to have a familiarity with each other in a way probably at this point beyond our comprehension. We think because we don't know someone in the physicality that we don't know them. But on the soul level, I think the souls are quite familiar with each other and can see and understand through that energy dimension what needs to be done. As we understand, this is a game of the energies, not so much the physicality. But we've got it again, backwards and upside down. Any other comments? Anybody'd like to add? Feel free. If it's been on the tip of your tongue and you're hemming and hawing, should I share this? Should I not share this? I've run into that situation many times myself. Sometimes I do share and sometimes I hold off. But you have the opportunity to share what you'd like. Thank you all for being here, carrying a very small bit of a very large carpet, but we're all important in the entire process, as more and more people will start to gravitate in a way towards the Keshe Foundation through the universities and other things. Students, knowledge seekers will be getting and testing their coins in the upcoming period. But as I said, there's still things to do as far as on our part, joining the association, replicating the association, and other things of supporting the Keshe Foundation's growth and expansion in a small way. If there's no further discussion, I'll play the final disclaimer, even though we've heard that. But as Mr. Keshe said, every time he hears this disclaimer, he enjoys it because it actually, again, you test the knowledge of how it befits you, not how I tell you to understand it. This is my understanding. You allow the soul to absorb what it can absorb. We can share our understandings as Alex just did or other knowledge seekers do, but it's for you to sort of pick it up and work with it. So the beauty of the disclaimer is you decide how this knowledge befits you. Not the way I tell you or anyone else tells you to understand it, unless you are looking for a guru or an intermediary to tell you how you should understand and what you need to understand. Okay, I'm going to play the final disclaimer, make sure we're seeing this. Thank you all again for your...
Thank you, Mark.
Yes, thank you all. I'm sure there's more work for all of us to do, but the work will be pleasurable, simple, and effective, as opposed to what we see now and we experience in the matter state where, again, every time you earn a little bit of money, every one of your bills from the insurance to the electric seems to be heading in a bigger bill. So we'll short circuit that in the future as the cosmic ray antennas get added onto the system. Okay, I'm going to play the final disclaimer. Remember the special meetings tomorrow, the testimonial, which is always the second Monday of every month at 8 p.m. Join Rick, and then, of course, the association meeting, which will be the first association meeting, and we did show that. I'll just share one other placard if I do have it here. And just to understand this whole concept of the coins and what it means, this was done a couple of weeks ago, but there's more and more. I think there's actually 4 Keshe coin videos now. Not all of them have been released. I think they're being worked or reworked and so on and so forth. But you can start to see the concept of this. And again, it's not everything will change tomorrow. Apparently there'll be 2 structures operating simultaneously, the one we're used to, and then this new plasma sort of city in a way, or environment that you can be in. And as time goes on, I think more and more people will see the light, as we say, or the beauty of this process that's being introduced to humanity, and all being set up in the background. So thank you all for joining today, and we'll see you in one of the next meetings. Okay, seems every time I take down one, something else disappears in this process. So we're going to, again, just bring up the disclaimer one more time, as it's left my screen or my tray. And we'll play the final disclaimer and the session will end. Thank you all again. Have an amazing rest of your day, and we'll see you all in one of the next sessions, which, as Mr. Keshe said, there's many more sessions. They're just going to conclude or start to conclude these sessions or this level of the workshops, but yet there's much more to come. So sit back, enjoy, study, expand, and share.
Disclaimer. The information and education material contained herein is meant to promote the general understanding and dialogue of GAN's processing. Such information is not meant or intended to serve as a substitute for a healthcare professional's clinical training, experience, or judgment. For patients and individuals, such information is not to be a substitute for professional medical, therapeutic, or healthcare advice or counseling. For medical issues or concerns, including decisions about medications and other treatments, readers, viewers, listeners should always consult their physician or, in serious cases, seek immediate assistance from emergency personnel. Prescription information, procedures, and use of medical devices information should be undertaken only by properly trained and certified medical personnel. We specifically disclaim any warranties, express or implied, including implied warranties of merchantability or fitness for a particular purpose. Such information is provided, as is, and is believed to be accurate at the time of its publishing, but it is the viewer's job to evaluate the accuracy of any information found in this presentation. Every case presented is of their own experience, applied by themselves for themselves, and it applies to their case only. Every person experiencing health problems should seek professional medical advice and consult their course of treatment with a doctor. The processes of plasma balancing described herein are a natural process which supports the body but does not replace medical advice or therapies one is already subject to.